We all know what it feels like to be tired, not just the kind of tired sleep can fix, but the kind that seeps into your soul. The kind where your mind won't stop spinning even when your body begs for rest. Maybe you've been running on empty, holding it all together while feeling like you're falling apart. In today's video, you're tired, I know. Rest by the fire with Jesus. We'll slow down, breathe, and listen as Jesus whispers peace into the chaos. So let's not waste any time and let's begin. The fire breathes softly, each flicker pushing back the edges of the night. You can feel its warmth on your face, a steady pulse against the chill of the world. Jesus sits across from you, his eyes reflecting the light, calm, unhurried, knowing. There's no rush here, no clock ticking, only the rhythm of crackling wood and the quiet hum of creation listening. He gestures gently toward the space beside him. Come, sit with me. The tone isn't a command, it's an invitation wrapped in kindness. You hesitate, still half bound by the noise that followed you here. Unfinished conversations, guilt, expectations that never seem to lift. But as you take a step closer, something in the air shifts. It's not that the noise disappears, it just loses its grip. You sit beside him. The firelight paints your hands in gold. Jesus looks at the flames before speaking again. You're tired, he says softly, and that's okay. His words carry no judgment, only truth. It's the kind of truth that doesn't sting. It soothes. You realize how long you've been running on empty, mistaking endurance for strength, chaos for purpose. I know what it means to be weary, he continues. There were nights I sat alone beneath the same stars, feeling the ache of this world in my bones. I wept for those who were hurting, for those who tried to do it all by themselves. He looks at you, not through you, but into you. Even I rested, he says. Even I needed quiet places. The fire cracks, sending sparks into the dark. Each spark fades upward, like tiny prayers returning home. You glance at him, his robe catching the orange glow, his hands resting calmly on his knees. He seems both near and beyond what your mind can grasp. Why is it so hard to rest? You ask quietly. Jesus smiles faintly. Because the world taught you that rest means weakness, but my Father and I have always called it worship. He stirs the fire with a stick, and for a moment the embers pulse brighter, deep red, then gold, then white-hot light. Peace isn't found when everything is calm, he says. It's found when you choose stillness in the middle of chaos. Like this fire, it lives in the desert, surrounded by cold and darkness, yet it burns steady because it remembers where it began. You stare into the flames. The light shifts and dances, and suddenly it feels like the fire is breathing with you, slow, deep, alive. Jesus leans back, slightly, eyes following the smoke as it rises. The desert is where you find what truly matters, he says. There's nothing left to distract you there, just wind, sand, and your own heartbeat. That's where I met my Father most clearly, in silence, when everything else was stripped away. He looks at you again, voice low and sure. That's why I brought you here, not to test you, not to fix you, but to remind you that peace isn't something you earn. You close your eyes. The fire hums. You can feel your shoulders lowering, the invisible armor sliding off piece by piece. The silence between you is heavy, but not empty. It's full of things you can't yet name. Mercy, patience, love without performance. After a while, Jesus speaks again. When I walked among the crowds, they came with noise, shouting pain, fear, confusion. I listened, but what healed them wasn't only my words, it was my stillness. They needed someone who wouldn't rush past their pain. He looks into the fire, and so do you. You breathe deeply. The air tastes like smoke, dust, and something sacred. I don't know how to stop, you admit. That's why I'm here, he says, smiling. To teach you stillness, to remind you that rest isn't something the world gives. It's something I am. When you sit with me, you're not falling behind. You're coming home. The words settle deep in your chest. For the first time in what feels like forever, you're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not replaying yesterday. You're just here, by the fire, with him. He reaches out and places his hand gently over yours. His touch isn't heavy, it's steady, grounding. Every flame begins small, he whispers. But if you guard it, if you let it breathe, it will grow. Let this be your first flame, the beginning of peace that won't fade when the world wakes up. You nod slowly. The fire pops again, casting light across the sand. Your heartbeat matches its rhythm. The silence doesn't scare you anymore. It comforts you, like a song without words. Jesus closes his eyes, still smiling, as if listening to something beyond the night. The flames rise and fall like breathing, their crackle steady and alive. A quiet heartbeat in the dark, pulsing softly with promise. The fire burns steady, and in that warmth, your soul begins to breathe again. The night deepens around you, and the fire burns lower, steady but quieter now, the kind of flame that hums more than crackles. You sit with Jesus in silence, watching the glowing embers breathe in and out like the heart of the desert itself. The warmth on your skin feels softer, gentler, as though even the fire knows it's time to listen. Jesus stirs the ashes with a piece of driftwood, eyes fixed on the shifting glow. "Do you see this?" he asks quietly. "This is what remains when the flame has done its work. Ashes, the memory of what once was." You nod slowly. There's something heavy in his words, something that sits too close to home. He continues, "Every heart carries ashes, remnants of things that burned, mistakes, regrets, words you can't take back, moments you wish you could live differently." You stare at the embers and think of your own. The people you've hurt, the things you've lost, the versions of yourself that didn't make it this far. You feel them all, a weight pressing against your chest like invisible stones. "I know," Jesus says softly, as if reading your thoughts. "You think those ashes are your punishment, but they're not. They're proof that something ended, that something burned away. What you carry now are the remains of things I never asked you to keep." His voice is low, almost a whisper. "You can't live when your hands are full of yesterday." You look down at your palms, imagining the soot there, the pieces of things long gone but never released, the memories you replay at night, the guilt that clings to every quiet moment. Jesus leans closer, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "There was once a soul," he begins, "who walked through the world with a sack of ashes. Every time they failed, every time they fell short, they'd gather the remains and carry them on their back. The load grew heavier with each day until they could barely move. They called it repentance, but it was really punishment." He looks at you, and there's both sorrow and tenderness in his expression. "They believed they were honouring me by never forgetting what they'd done wrong. But I was never the one who asked them to drag their grief through life. I only asked them to bring it to the fire." You swallow hard. "The fire?" you ask. He nods. "Yes, the place where endings become beginnings. The place where what's broken can burn away and make room for new life. But so many of my children hold their ashes tight. They think letting go means forgetting, but it doesn't. It means forgiving." You close your eyes and picture yourself in that story, walking through the years, back bent, clutching all the moments that haunt you. You can feel the sting of it, the ache in your shoulders, the weight of your own guilt disguised as devotion. Jesus' voice cuts gently through your thoughts. "Put them down," he says. "Not later, not someday when you feel ready. Now." You hesitate. The pain feels familiar. You've carried it so long that it's become part of who you are. "I know it feels safer to hold them," he says, "because the ashes remind you of what you survived. But you were not meant to build a home from what's already burned." You feel tears sting your eyes, not sharp, but cleansing. You reach toward the fire, trembling a little, and imagine placing every regret, every failure, every moment of shame into the glowing coals. For a second, nothing happens. Then the flames rise. Not in anger, but in welcome. They take the ashes and breathe through them, turning what once felt dead into light. The warmth washes over you. You can smell the faint sweetness of smoke. Hear the gentle sigh of the wind, as if creation itself is exhaling relief. Jesus watches, his eyes reflecting both grief and pride. That's it, he murmurs. That's what I came for, not to remind you of your sins, but to free you from them. You take a shaky breath. The air feels lighter. The sky above seems wider. Something inside you, something that's been locked away for years, finally loosens. Do you ever get tired of forgiving, you whisper? He smiles, and the expression is unlike anything you've seen, radiant and sad and beautiful all at once. I never get tired of forgiving, he says, but I do grieve when my children refuse to forgive themselves. He pauses, letting the truth sink deep. Forgiveness isn't about erasing what happened. It's about freeing the heart that's still chained to it. The fire pops softly, sending one last spark into the night sky. You follow it with your eyes until it disappears among the stars. For the first time, you realize the weight on your shoulders is gone. The sack you carried all this time. It's just dust now, scattered in the wind. Jesus stands, brushing the sand from his robe. The past is meant to teach, not to trap, he says. What you've burned tonight doesn't define you, it refines you. You nod, tears still drying on your cheeks, but your chest feels open, you're breathing easier. He looks at the fire one last time, then back at you. The flame still burns, he says. It always does, but it's not here to remind you of pain. It's here to show you how even ashes can glow when they're touched by love. And as the fire hums low and soft, you feel it. The faint, sacred warmth of being made new. The fire whispers low. Its glow softer now, a deep amber warmth against the cool desert air. You sit in quiet peace beside Jesus, your heart lighter than before. The ashes you laid down have stilled, and the silence feels cleaner, emptied of yesterday's noise. Jesus watches the flames for a long time, then turns to you with eyes that seem to hold both sorrow and joy. Do you know, he begins softly, how powerful silence can be? You tilt your head, unsure what he means. He continues, there was a day when a woman stood before me, trembling, surrounded by stones. She had been caught in sin, and they dragged her into the street to make an example of her. Their hands were full, stones in one, self-righteousness in the other. Their voices were loud with accusation. But I said nothing. The desert wind stirs, sweeping sand across your feet. You can almost see it, the angry crowd, the frightened woman, the weight of judgment hanging in the air. Jesus' voice remains calm, but there's a depth in it that makes the story feel alive. I knelt down, he says. I touched the dust, and wrote with my finger. No one remembers what I wrote, because the point wasn't the words. It was the silence. He pauses, eyes reflecting the firelight. Mercy speaks loudest when it doesn't shout. The woman was waiting for punishment, but what she heard instead was my quiet. That silence was the sound of forgiveness forming. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of that moment, the tension, the fear, the unspoken relief. What did she do, you ask? She waited, he answers. Her world was collapsing around her, and she waited for the first stone to fall. But instead, I looked up and said, let the one without sin throw the first stone. And one by one, they dropped what they carried. The fire crackles, and in its sound, you can almost hear the clatter of stones hitting the ground. When the last one left, he continues, I looked at her and asked, where are they who condemn you? She said, no one, Lord. And I said, neither do I condemn you. Go, and sin no more. He stirs the embers gently, his voice quieter now. Do you see? Forgiveness isn't about pretending the sin never happened. It's about freeing the soul from the chains it forged in its own guilt. That's why I said, go. Forgiveness always moves forward. It never traps you in the moment of your fall. You breathe in slowly, the smoke rising like a prayer. But what if you keep remembering the mistakes, you ask? What if the guilt doesn't fade? He looks at you with that same endless patience. Then remember differently, he says. Don't remember the fall. Remember the hand that helped you stand again. Guilt looks backward, but grace looks forward. Every time you relive what broke you, Remind yourself that I was there, not as a judge, but as a healer. His words sink deep, stirring something inside you. Forgiveness as freedom, not an erasure, but a release. You think about your own failures, the moments you wished you could undo. They don't sting the same way now. They feel seen, not hidden, not ignored, just finally understood. Jesus' gaze returns to the fire. The woman didn't walk away clean because she earned it, he says. She walked away free because she believed me. That's the language of forgiveness. It's not spoken with the mouth, but with the heart that dares to accept love it didn't think it deserved. He picks up a small piece of wood and tosses it into the flames. The fire brightens, the smoke curling upward like a hymn. When you forgive yourself, he continues, you don't erase your story, you refine it. Every scar becomes a word, every tear a sentence, every act of grace a new chapter written in firelight. You watch the flames dance higher, thinking about the ashes that once lay there. What was dead has been turned to warmth. What once burned now gives light. Forgiveness, he says softly, isn't a one-time act. It's a language. You learn to speak with me. Every day I whisper its words into your soul, sometimes through peace, sometimes through pain. It's not weakness to forgive. It's strength to let go of what keeps you bound. You exhale slowly, the air cool against your lips. So, I don't have to earn it. Jesus shakes his head, smiling gently. No, you can't earn what's already been given. The price was paid long before you knew how to ask. The desert night hums and the fire glows brighter, as if responding to the truth in his voice. You see, he says, forgiveness is not fire that destroys, it's fire that transforms. It burns away shame, but leaves your name untouched. You stare into the embers, and for the first time you see beauty in the ruin. You understand that to forgive is to live lighter, to make room for what's holy to breathe again inside you. Jesus stands and extends his hand. Come, he says, his tone gentle. There's more to see. Walk with me through the night. You take his hand, the fire glows behind you. Still alive, still burning. Not as a reminder of sin, but as a promise of freedom. The fire behind you fades into a soft glow, its light dimming against the vast stretch of desert night. You walk beside Jesus now, the sand cool beneath your feet, the sky above endless and wide. The moon hangs like a lantern, pale and kind, casting long shadows across the dunes. Each step sinks slightly into the sand, leaving quiet marks that vanish with the wind. Neither of you speak at first. The silence feels alive, not empty but whole. You can hear your own breath, the rhythm of your steps, and the soft whisper of sand shifting underfoot. After a while, Jesus glances toward you, his robe brushing against the ground as he walks. Do you ever notice, he begins gently, how sand holds your footprints for a while, and then the wind takes them? You nod. It's like nothing stays for long, he smiles. That's the way of time. Every moment leaves an impression, but none of them last forever. What you think is permanent, and pain, joy, guilt, even love, all of it moves, changes, and returns to me. Nothing is wasted, but nothing stays exactly the same. You let his words settle. The sand feels endless, stretching out like memory itself. Vast, shifting, unpredictable. Then how do we know where we've been? You ask quietly. Jesus looks down at your footprints, side by side with his. You don't need to remember every path, he says. Only the one who walked with you. That's enough. You walk in silence for a while longer. The desert breeze cools your skin. Each gust erases the steps behind you, like grace wiping away the evidence of struggle. Jesus stops suddenly and looks out toward the horizon. You've asked before why I felt far away, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. Why in the hardest moments it seemed like I disappeared. You look at him, the question rising again from somewhere deep inside. Sometimes I wondered if I walked alone. He kneels, drawing a line in the sand with his finger. There was a time when you only saw one set of footprints, he says. You thought I had left you. He looks up, eyes soft. But those weren't your steps. They were mine. I carried you. The wind stills, and the world seems to pause with it. The words sink into you like warmth into cold hands. You carried me, you ask, voice trembling. Yes, he replies simply. When you couldn't see me, it's because your eyes were filled with tears. When you couldn't feel me, it's because your heart was too heavy to notice the arms that held you. You thought I was gone, but I was never closer. You stare at the sand, at the faint marks left behind. For the first time you see it. Not absence, but presence. Not loss, but love disguised as strength. I thought I failed you, you whisper. He shakes his head. You can't fail me by falling. You only fail when you refuse to reach for my hand. You feel tears blur your vision. The sand glows faintly in the moonlight, each grain catching the silver light, like tiny fragments of eternity. Why do you stay? You ask. Even when I forget you, Jesus smiles, slow and patient. Because love doesn't need a reason to stay, it simply does. You walk again, your heart quieter now. The sand cools your feet, grounding you in the moment. The rhythm of your steps matches his. You don't need to talk anymore. The silence between you says everything. After a while, he speaks again. This sand, he says, is time. Every grain, a second, a thought, a heartbeat. You walk across it, and it shifts beneath you. But what you don't see is that my hand keeps it steady. Even when life feels uncertain, I am the ground beneath your steps. He stoops down, scooping a handful of sand, letting it trickle slowly through his fingers. You can't hold time, he says, but you can walk with me through it. You nod, feeling the truth of it settle inside you. The moments that once felt wasted now seem sacred. Even your missteps feel redeemed. Jesus looks toward the horizon again, and for the first time you notice the faint shimmer of water in the distance. A soft glimmer under the moon, the edge of an unseen sea. The air changes. It smells fresher, cooler, like something new approaching. The desert ends there, he says. Where the sand meets the sea, the story changes. The same grains that once burned under the sun are carried by waves, reshaped, renewed, just as you are. You both walk toward the sound, faint at first, then clearer, rhythmic, alive. The hush of waves folding onto the shore, the ground beneath your feet grows firmer, smoother. The air fills with the scent of salt and dawn. Jesus turns to you one last time before stepping closer to the water. The footprints may fade, he says, but my path through you never will. Every step you took with me became part of something eternal. You follow him to the edge where land gives way to ocean. The sand cools under the foam, the waves washing gently over your feet like a promise. The sound of the sea is steady, soothing, a heartbeat that never stops. And there, under the moonlight, you finally understand. Every step mattered. Every stumble was held. Every moment of silence was love in disguise. The wind carries his words through the sound of the surf. You never walked alone. The tide rises slowly, touching the shore with renewal as the first hint of morning begins to break. The tide whispers around your feet, curling foam over sand that glows faintly in the moonlight. The water is cool and alive, each wave brushing away traces of your footprints. You stand beside Jesus at the edge of the sea. Behind you, the fire still burns, small and steady, its light flickering across the surface of the waves. The air smells of salt and smoke, of something ending and something waiting to begin. Jesus watches the horizon, where the first hint of dawn softens the darkness. This place, he says, has always been sacred to me, not because of the sea itself, but because of what happened here. You glance at him. His eyes reflect the faint pink shimmer of the coming sunrise. What happened here, you ask? He smiles faintly. Forgiveness met failure, he says, and love won. He crouches near the shore, picking up small stones and tossing them into the water one by one. Each splash feels like a heartbeat, steady and rhythmic. After I rose, he begins, the ones who loved me most had gone back to what they knew. The ones who once followed me everywhere, preaching, healing, believing, they returned to the sea, to the nets, to the life they left behind. His voice grows softer. Peter was among them. You nod. You remember Peter's story. The man who swore he'd never deny Jesus, only to break that promise 3 times before dawn. He must have felt ruined, you whisper. He did, Jesus says. Guilt can make a man forget who he is. Peter thought his failure disqualified him from my love. So he hid in work, trying to drown his shame in the sound of the sea. The waves roll in, gentle but insistent. You can almost see it, the fishing boat, rocking in the dim light. The faces weary, silent, hollow with regret. They caught nothing that night, Jesus says, with a small smile. They tried and failed, over and over again. Then, just as morning broke, they saw a man on the shore calling out to them. "Throw your net on the right side," he said. And when they did, the nets overflowed. You can hear the wonder in his tone, the quiet humour. Peter knew, he continues. He recognized me not by sight but by grace. He jumped into the water and swam toward me, soaking wet, breathless, desperate not for miracles but for another chance. Jesus steps closer to the water, and for a moment his reflection flickers in the rippling tide. When he reached the shore, I was waiting by a small fire. I had made breakfast, bread and fish cooking over the coals. The image feels so human, so tender. "After everything," you say softly, "you made him breakfast." Jesus nods, smiling. Because love doesn't vanish when we fail. It makes a fire and waits. I didn't ask Peter why he betrayed me. I didn't demand apologies or explanations. I asked only one thing. Do you love me? The sound of the sea grows gentler, like it's listening. 3 times I asked him, Jesus continues, not to remind him of his failure, but to replace each denial with love, to rebuild what shame had broken. You watch the waves touch his feet, the early light catching on the ripples. What did he say, you ask? He said, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you," and I did know. That's all I ever wanted him to remember. Love is what restores you, not perfection. You take a slow breath. The truth feels warm, like sunlight beneath the skin. So you didn't send him away. Jesus laughs softly. Send him away? No, I sent him forward. I told him, "Feed my sheep." I gave him purpose again. You look out across the sea, and the first golden streaks of dawn stretch across the sky. So even after betrayal, there's still purpose? There's especially purpose after betrayal, he says. Broken hearts know how to heal others. Those who've fallen know how to lift. That's why I chose Peter, not because he was strong, but because he knew what it felt like to fall and be forgiven. The fire behind you flares, catching the light of morning. The orange glow deepens into gold, and the reflection dances across the water. Jesus turns toward it, watching as smoke rises gently into the air. Do you see, he says quietly, the fire that once meant survival now becomes a symbol of beginning. What once kept the night away now welcomes the morning. You stare at the flame, realizing that every spark, every ember, carries both endings and renewal. It's the same fire from before, but it feels different, brighter, alive with promise. Jesus kneels and draws a simple circle in the sand. Grace moves in seasons, he says. Night to dawn, guilt to mercy, endings to beginnings. Nothing stays dark forever. He stands and looks toward the sunrise. Peter thought his story was over, but it had just begun. That's the beauty of my love. It doesn't erase the past. It redeems it. The sea catches the full glow of the sun now, turning from grey to silver, from silver to gold. The warmth touches your face, and for the first time in a long while, you feel ready, not to run, not to prove yourself, but to begin again. Jesus smiles, seeing the peace in your eyes. Every sunrise, he says, is my reminder that mercy renews itself daily. You're never too broken to begin again. You look out at the water, endless and shimmering, and whisper, "Then maybe this is my shore too." He nods. It is. Behind you, the fire crackles softly, catching the wind of morning. Before you, the waves shimmer like living glass. Between them stands the promise that no night lasts forever. The world feels new again. The first light of morning spills gently over the water, soft and golden, brushing across the waves like a painter's hand. The fire crackles behind you, smaller now, its glow no longer fighting the darkness, but welcoming the day. You and Jesus stand together at the edge of the sea. The sky is alive with colour, pale rose, amber, and the faintest blue breaking through the night's last shadow. Jesus watches it in silence for a long while, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly as though he's listening to something only he can hear. Finally, he speaks. "Every sunrise is a sermon," he says softly. "It preaches resurrection better than any voice ever could." You follow his gaze. The horizon shimmers where light meets water. "It's beautiful," you whisper. He nods. It is, but beauty is only half its message. The real miracle is in what it proves, that no night lasts forever. Every dawn tells the story of my Father's promise, that what seems gone will rise again. The waves slide up to your ankles, cool and rhythmic. You watch the sun slowly climb higher, its reflection scattering across the surface of the sea. So every morning, Jesus continues, the earth itself wakes up and remembers me. The trees turn their faces toward the light. The birds sing before they even see the sun. Faith begins before the proof arrives. You look at him, the warmth of the sunrise washing over both of you. "You mean, even the world trusts you?" He smiles. "Yes, the earth doesn't question whether the sun will rise. It rests through the night knowing the light will come. That's what I want for you, to rest, not because everything is perfect, but because you trust that dawn is coming." His words are soft, but they carry weight. You realize how often you have mistaken rest for giving up. How many times you've pushed yourself past exhaustion just to feel worthy, afraid that stillness meant weakness. Jesus crouches down, running his hand through the wet sand. "Rest is not quitting," he says. "It's trusting. The world rushes because it fears falling behind, but I tell you, heaven doesn't move in haste. My Father is never late, and his timing never fails. Stillness is strength, not surrender." He picks up a small seashell, turning it in his fingers. This shell was shaped by years of waves, yet it never fought them. It let the tide do its work. That's what faith looks like, allowing the current of grace to shape you, even when you don't understand where it's taking you. You listen to the gentle rhythm of his voice, steady as the ocean. The breeze carries the scent of salt and something new, something alive. "It's hard to be still," you admit quietly. "When everything feels uncertain, I keep moving just so I don't have to think." Jesus looks at you, compassion soft in his eyes. "I know," he says. "The noise of the world makes stillness feel like failure, but I didn't find my Father in crowds or chaos. I found him in quiet places, the wilderness, the garden, the mountain before dawn. Strength doesn't come from doing more, it comes from resting deeper." You glance down at the water swirling around your feet. The tide rolls in, gentle but persistent. "So being still isn't about stopping," you say slowly. "It's about trusting the one who holds what I can't control." He nods. "Exactly. Rest doesn't mean the absence of movement. It means moving with peace instead of panic." The sun climbs higher, turning the sea into liquid gold. Birds sweep across the horizon, their wings catching the light. The day feels awake now, fully alive. Jesus lifts his hand toward the sky. "This is resurrection," he says. "Not just the rising of my body from the tomb, but the rising of hope in every heart that believes. Every sunrise is my whisper, I am still here." You feel something stir within you, a warmth that isn't just the sunlight, but something deeper, like your soul is beginning to breathe again. "I forget that sometimes," you admit, "that you're still here." He smiles, stepping closer. "And yet I never forget you," he says. "Even when the night hides your sight, I am already preparing the dawn." The silence of darkness is never abandonment. It's the pause before renewal. You close your eyes and let the warmth of the sun rest on your face. The sound of the waves becomes a lullaby, each one carrying his words deeper into you. You realize you've spent so much of your life chasing meaning, searching for signs, when the answer was as simple as this: light returning every morning, proof that God keeps his promises. Jesus' voice softens. When you wake tomorrow, don't rush. Watch the scowl. Listen to how the light moves through the air. Let it remind you that resurrection isn't an event, it's a rhythm. I rise with every dawn, and I rise in you. You breathe deeply, the peace of it sinking into your chest. So when I rest, I'm not falling behind, you say. I'm aligning with you. He nods. Yes, rest isn't the end of motion, it's the beginning of strength. Be still long enough to hear what the dawn is saying. It's my way of reminding you that even your quiet moments are holy. The sea glows brighter now, the light spilling over everything. The sand, the waves, even your skin. You feel both small and infinite, grounded and lifted all at once. Jesus looks out across the horizon, his expression serene. Let the morning speak to you, he says. Let it teach you that hope doesn't shout, it rises. The day unfolds fully before you, golden and new, and somewhere deep within, a question begins to stir. The question lingers in the air between you and Jesus, quiet but heavy. What does it mean to trust when faith feels too small to hold? The morning is bright now, sunlight spilling freely across the shore. The waves glimmer, soft and endless. Jesus walks ahead of you along the sand, his robe brushing against the wind. Each step he takes leaves a brief imprint before the tide gently washes it away. He looks back at you and smiles, as if he's already heard the thought forming in your heart. You're wondering if your faith is enough, he says. You hesitate. Sometimes it doesn't feel like faith at all, you admit. Some days I'm not sure I believe like I used to. I pray, but it feels like I'm just talking to the wind. Jesus nods slowly, his expression calm, understanding. I know that feeling well, he says. You think faith must be loud, strong, unshakable to matter. But let me tell you a secret. Even the smallest faith still moves the heavens. You look down at your hands, fingers brushing over the damp sand. But what if it's barely there? He kneels beside you and picks something from the ground, a tiny speck, almost invisible between his fingers. Do you see this? He asks. You squint. It's so small. It's a mustard seed, he says, smiling faintly. Smaller than most dust you breathe in, yet inside it hides a tree large enough to give shade and shelter to birds. That's what faith is like. It may begin too small to notice, but it grows in ways only time can reveal. You stare at the seed, almost in disbelief that something so insignificant could hold such promise. But how does it grow, you ask quietly. In silence, Jesus answers. In patience, in the unseen soil of your life. Every time you choose to hope instead of despair, every time you whisper my name when no one hears, the seed stretches its roots deeper. You don't see it, but heaven does. He presses the tiny seed into your palm. It's barely there, light as breath. You think your faith is weak, he continues. But faith isn't about size, it's about direction. Even when it trembles, it's still reaching toward me. You feel a lump rise in your throat. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing you, you confess. When I doubt, when I get tired, when I stop praying as much as I should. Jesus shakes his head gently. You can't fail me by being human, he says. Doubt doesn't destroy faith, it refines it. It makes your roots search deeper for water. You sit in silence, listening to the gentle rhythm of the waves. Somewhere nearby, a bird sings softly, its voice small but sure against the sound of the sea. Faith isn't always fire, Jesus says. Sometimes it's just an ember, a faint glow that refuses to die out. You think that's weakness, but I see it as strength. It means your soul hasn't given up. He stands and walks a few paces toward the waterline. Do you remember when I told my disciples that faith as small as a mustard seed could move mountains? You nod, eyes still fixed on the seed in your palm. They thought I meant power, he says, but I was teaching them about trust. Mountains don't move because you shout at them. They move when you believe that even the impossible is possible with me. You may not see the mountain shift all at once, but every small prayer, every quiet act of belief, begins to loosen the ground. He gestures toward the horizon, where the sea meets the land. Far beyond the rolling dunes, a mountain stands faintly in the distance, its peak hidden behind a veil of light. Look there, he says softly. Every life has its mountains, things too heavy, too high. too unmoving. But even there, small faith can make the earth tremble. You follow his gaze, the distant mountain seeming impossibly far away. So even if I just keep walking, you ask, even if I'm not sure where the path leads, Jesus smiles, that patient, knowing smile that reaches beyond words. Especially then, he says, that's when faith does its best work. When the road is long and the outcome unseen, that's when the seed grows strongest roots. The wind picks up, carrying grains of sand through the air. They sparkle in the sunlight like gold dust. Every prayer you've ever whispered, he continues, every tear, every moment you've reached for me, none of it is lost. The soil remembers. You close your hand gently around the mustard seed, feeling its smallness and strength all at once. So even this, you murmur, is enough. Jesus nods. More than enough, because I don't measure your faith by how big it looks, but by whether it keeps growing. He reaches out, brushing the side of your face with his hand, the gesture both comforting and steady. You don't need to prove your belief, he says. You only need to let it live. You take a slow breath, letting the peace of his words sink deep. The morning air feels lighter, filled with quiet promise. The waves lap gently against the sand, echoing his rhythm, steady, patient, alive. Jesus looks once more towards the far-off mountain, sunlight crowning its hidden peak. Keep that seed close, he says. In time, it will teach you how even small faith can move what once felt impossible. The wind stills, and in the silence you howl, your heart beats steady. One pulse, one prayer, one tiny seed of faith, alive and growing. The path begins to rise beneath your feet, the sand giving way to rocky ground. The air grows thinner, the sound of the waves fading behind you. Ahead, the distant mountain looms larger now, its peak veiled in soft white clouds. Jesus walks beside you, his steps steady, unhurried. You glance upward, feeling the weight in your chest, the quiet, pressure that has followed you for years. He notices before you say a word. Your heart feels heavy again, he says gently. You nod, your voice barely above a whisper. I can't seem to stop worrying, you admit. Even when things are calm, I keep waiting for something to go wrong. It's like I'm always climbing, never resting. Jesus listens, his eyes kind and patient. Worry, he says, is the mountain most people climb every day. And yet, it's not the one I asked them to conquer. You frown slightly. Then what is it? He bends down and picks up a stone from the ground. It's smooth, grey, cold to the touch. This, he says, holding it up to the light, is worry, small at first, but heavy in your hands. And each time you think about what might go wrong, you pick up another one. He places the stone in your palm, and you feel its weight immediately. Now imagine, he continues, that every fear, every doubt, every what if is another stone. You gather them without realizing it. Soon your arms are full, your back bends, and you wonder why life feels so hard. You stare at the stone, the truth of his words pressing into your heart. It's exactly like that, you whisper. I can't stop collecting them. I tell myself I'm being careful, responsible, but it just feels like I'm getting crushed. Jesus looks toward the mountain ahead. And then, he says softly, you start to climb, carrying the stones you were never meant to bear. Each step gets harder, but you keep going because the world told you that worry proves you care. But that's not love, it's fear in disguise. He walks forward, motioning for you to follow. The incline steepens slightly, the path scattered with pebbles that crunch beneath your sandals. The mountain of worry has no summit, he says. No matter how high you climb, it always rises above you. That's why you never feel finished, never feel enough. You stop walking, the stone still in your hand. So what do I do? You ask quietly. He turns to you, his eyes meeting yours with a calm certainty. You drop them, he says, one by one. You look at the stone, unsure. Just let them go? Yes, he says simply, because they were never yours to carry. My shoulders are stronger than yours for a reason. I never asked you to bear the weight of what hasn't happened yet. That burden belongs to me. He steps closer, taking the stone from your hand. You hold on because you think worry gives you control. but it only steals your peace. Fear builds mountains, but faith moves them. He tosses the stone to the ground. It lands with a soft thud, rolling a few inches before coming to rest. The sound feels final, like something has been released. You exhale slowly. But what about the others, you ask? There are so many. Jesus gestures toward the fire still glowing faintly in the valley below. We'll bring them. There, he says. Every worry, every fear, every secret thought that keeps you awake at night. We'll give them back to the flame that never stops burning. You begin to walk again, following his steady pace. With each step, he bends down and gathers another stone, handing it to you. This one, he says, is the fear of tomorrow. This one is the need to please everyone. This one, the quiet voice that says you'll never be enough. By the time you reach the small plateau halfway up the mountain, your hands are full. The stones feel heavier with each one, pressing into your skin, making your shoulders ache. Jesus stops beside you. The fire below has grown brighter, its smoke curling into the air like a path leading home. Now, he says, listen. The wind stills. You can hear your heartbeat, quick and uneven. Drop them, he whispers. You open your hands. The stones fall, one after another, tumbling down the mountain. The sound they make is soft at first, then louder, like rain hitting water, like chains breaking. You watch them disappear into the glow of the fire far below. The relief is immediate. Your chest loosens. The ache in your back fades. You take a deep breath that feels like your first in years. Jesus watches you, smiling. That sound, he says quietly, is surrender. The sound of heaven catching what you let go. You close your eyes, tears tracing down your cheeks. I didn't know it could feel like this, you say. He nods. Peace doesn't come from holding tighter. It comes from opening your hands. You wipe your face, feeling lighter than you have in a long time. But won't the worries come back, you ask? They might, he says. But next time, you'll know where to bring them. Don't climb the mountain again. Sit by the fire and remember who carries the weight. You glance down at the valley below, where the fire glows like a living heart. Its warmth reaches even here, reminding you that you are not alone. Jesus turns his gaze upward, toward the peak bathed in light. Now that your hands are free, he says, you can lift them. You follow his eyes and see the mountain not as a burden anymore, but as something beautiful. Its slopes glowing gold under the rising sun. You realize that faith was never about carrying everything. It was about trusting the one who already has. Below, the faint echo of falling stones continues, each one marking the rhythm of surrender. The mountain quiets behind you, and you walk back toward the valley where the fire waits. Its glow flickers against the fading dusk, warm and steady like a heartbeat calling you home. You sit beside it again, hands empty now, the air softer around you. Jesus sits across from you, his face calm, his eyes reflecting the light like still water. He studies you for a moment, saying nothing. The silence isn't heavy this time. It feels gentle, patient, like the hush before a lullaby. When he finally speaks, his voice is low and tender. You've been strong for so long, he says. Too strong, maybe. You look down at your hands, noticing the faint tremor that still lingers. I didn't have a choice, you whisper. I had to be. He nods slowly. That's what you told yourself. But there was a time, long before the world taught you to be afraid, when strength looked different, when it meant laughing without reason, trusting without proof, loving without fear. You meet his gaze, and for a moment, something inside you stirs, something small, quiet, and familiar. It feels like memory. Jesus continues, there's a child still living inside you, the one who believed before life taught you to doubt, the one who reached out without hesitation, the one who dreamed without fear of falling. Your chest tightens. That part of me feels gone, you say, like the world burned it out of me. He shakes his head gently. It didn't burn away, he says. It only hid, waiting for a safer time to come out again. The fire crackles softly. Its light dances across the sand, painting gold across your skin. Jesus leans forward, the warmth of the flames lighting his features. That's why I called you here, he says, to remind the little one in you that it's safe now. You swallow hard, your throat tightening. Safe, you repeat. How can I be safe when everything still hurts? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he reaches toward the fire and picks up a small stick, tracing patterns into the sand, circles, lines, shapes that fade as soon as the wind touches them. When you were small, he says, pain felt bigger because the world felt smaller. You learnt to hide your tears, didn't you? You nod slowly, memories surfacing like ripples in still water. Times you cried quietly so no one would see, moments you pretended not to care. I had to be strong, you whisper. Jesus looks up, his expression soft. You thought strength meant silence, but I never asked you to silence the child I created. I asked you to bring them to me. His words feel like sunlight through clouds. You blink, trying to hold them, but emotion wells too quickly. I don't even know how to do that anymore, you say, your voice breaking. He gestures toward the fire. Start here, he says. Close your eyes. Remember the child you once were, the one who laughed easily, who trusted freely. Picture them sitting right beside you. You do. You see a small version of yourself, knees pulled close, eyes wide and cautious. The child looks at you uncertainly, unsure if it's safe to exist again. Jesus smiles at the image only you can see. Tell them it's okay, he says. Tell them they don't have to carry the shame anymore. You reach toward the small figure in your mind, tears falling before you realize it. I'm sorry, you whisper, for forgetting you, for making you hide, for thinking you were weak. The child looks up at you and smiles, a small forgiving smile. Something in your chest loosens, as if a locked door finally opens. Jesus watches quietly. That's it, he says softly. Let go, little one. The words reach deeper than your ears. They echo through your soul. You feel the tension unravel, the armor you've worn for years beginning to fall away piece by piece. I carried so much shame, you admit through trembling breaths, for things I couldn't control, for mistakes I made trying to survive. He leans closer, his voice steady. Shame is the language of fear, but love doesn't speak that tongue. You were never meant to apologize for being human. You look into the fire, the flames reflecting in your eyes. Then why does it feel so hard to believe I'm forgiven? Jesus smiles gently, because forgiveness requires trust, and trust begins with letting the child inside you breathe again. You've been punishing yourself for being broken, but I've been holding the pieces all along. You're not shattered, you're being remade. You cover your face, crying quietly, not with despair this time, but with relief. The sound of your breathing blends with the rhythm of the flames. Jesus speaks again, his tone like the warmth of morning. Do you remember when you used to run without fear of falling? That's how I want you to walk with me, not in perfection, but in freedom. You lower your hands, your tears drying in the fire's glow. It feels like I'm learning to live again, you say softly. He nods. That's because you are. The child in you was never lost, just waiting for permission to rest. The fire crackles louder, the air filled with a calm, sacred hum. Jesus' eyes reflect both the flames and something eternal beyond them. Let the little one come home, he whispers. Let them laugh again, hope again, trust again, for the kingdom belongs to such as these. You close your eyes. In the quiet, you feel something tender stir inside you, a warmth, a peace, a faint giggle echoing from somewhere deep within. The part of you that once believed begins to wake, blinking against the light. And then, from somewhere unseen, a soft wind begins to rise. It moves gently through the air, stirring the ashes, carrying the scent of the sea and the sound of new life. The fire bends with it, glowing brighter, alive with motion, as if the wind itself is breathing. You lift your face to the breeze, and for the first time in a long while, you feel the spirit move. The wind grows stronger, curling through the valley like a living song. It moves around you, over you, through you, gentle yet powerful, whispering against your skin as though it carries a voice too ancient for words. The fire bends with it, sparks lifting toward the sky, dancing in the rhythm of something unseen. You close your eyes, and for a moment, It feels as if the whole earth is breathing. Jesus stands near. The flame, his robe flowing with the wind, his gaze lifted toward the heavens. "Do you feel that?" he asks softly. You nod, your voice caught in awe. "It's alive," he smiles. "Yes, that's the Spirit. The breath of my Father moving through the world, through every heart willing to open." The air hums around you, warm and alive, carrying the scent of salt and smoke. Jesus' voice blends with it, low and steady, each word falling like rain on dry ground. The Spirit has always been the breath of life. In the beginning, when the world was only dust and darkness, the Spirit moved across the waters, silent, unseen, yet bursting with power. And when my Father formed man from the soil, it was the breath of the Spirit that filled his lungs. He steps closer, the firelight tracing the edges of his face. That same breath still moves. It hasn't stopped since creation. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every spark of courage you've ever felt. That's the Spirit whispering, "You are alive." You draw a deep breath, and for the first time you notice the difference, how even the air feels sacred, purposeful. "Sometimes it feels like that breath is gone," you say quietly. "Like my soul is too tired to take it in." Jesus nods gently. "Dead hope," he says. That's what you feel when the Spirit's voice is drowned out by fear. But the Spirit doesn't abandon those places. It waits, hovering over the ashes, ready to breathe again. He extends his hand toward you, palm open. When you feel empty, that's not the absence of God. It's the space he's making for new life to enter. The words settle deep inside you, stirring something that had long been dormant. You think of all the times you felt hollow, the nights when prayers felt like echoes, when hope was a language you'd forgotten how to speak. The Spirit, he says, was there all along, not gone, just waiting. Jesus looks into the flame. "Do you remember Ezekiel?" he asks. "The prophet who stood in the valley of dry bones?" You nod faintly. "He spoke, and they came to life again." "Yes," Jesus says, "but not by his strength. He said what the Spirit told him to say. 'Come, breath, from the four winds, and breathe into these slain, that they may live.' And the Spirit did. That same breath moves through you now." He gestures towards your chest. "Every breath you take is a reminder that you are made to live, not just survive." The Spirit's voice fills what's empty, revives what's lost, restores what's broken. You inhale deeply, feeling the cool air rush through your lungs. It feels different now, fuller, deeper, like something divine has entered with it. "The Spirit gives courage," Jesus continues. "Not the kind that roars, but the kind that endures. The quiet strength that keeps you standing when you have every reason to fall. It gives peace where panic once lived. It gives hope when the world says hope is gone." He lifts his gaze again to the horizon, where dawn has fully broken. The light spills over everything, the sand, the sea, the fire, even your face. "The Spirit is not seen," he says, "but you know it's there by what it changes." You think of the wind, invisible, yet capable of shaping mountains, smoothing stones, moving the sea itself. You realize faith is much the same. You can't see it working, but it transforms everything it touches. Jesus turns to you again. "Close your eyes," he says. You obey, breathing slowly. The world fades until all that's left is the wind, warm and endless, filling every space within you. "Now listen," he says. The air hums softly, like 1,000 heartbeats blending into one. For a moment, you feel weightless. No past, no pain, no fear. Only the steady rhythm of breath. His, yours, the Spirit's, moving as one. "You see," Jesus whispers. "The Spirit doesn't just visit, it abides. It builds a home within you. Every breath you take in peace. Every time you choose to love. Every quiet act of faith. That's the Spirit breathing through you." You open your eyes again, tears glistening in the corners. "It's beautiful," you murmur. "It feels like coming back to life." Jesus smiles, nodding, because that's exactly what it is. The Spirit doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't demand. It invites. It doesn't strike with thunder. It moves like breath, gentle but unstoppable. He steps closer and places a hand on your shoulder. Never forget, he says softly. You carry the breath of heaven in you. When you feel weak, remember, even dust was enough for my Father to begin again. The fire flickers as a gust of wind passes through, scattering sparks into the air. They rise high, disappearing into the sky like tiny stars being born. You breathe deeply once more, letting the spirit fill every corner of you, every space that fear once claimed. And as you do, you feel warmth spread through your chest. Not just comfort, but life itself. Jesus looks at you, his expression tender, proud. Now, he says quietly, keep breathing. The spirit never leaves those who choose to live. You close your eyes again, holding on to the peace that settles deep within. Yet somewhere under the surface, a memory begins to stir, faint but sharp, a glimpse of pain buried long ago. The wind stills slightly, and the firelight trembles against your skin. Something within you starts to ache, a shadow from the past rising with the spirit's breath. The air grows still again, the spirit's wind settling into quiet calm. You sit by the fading fire, the warmth lingering against your skin. That ache from within, the one the spirit stirred awake, doesn't feel like pain anymore. It feels like something asking to be seen. Jesus stands near the fire, his eyes soft and searching, as if he knows exactly what has risen inside you. He kneels beside you, close enough for the firelight to trace the lines of his face. Something stirred in you, he says gently. A memory, a wound, a place you've hidden for too long. You lower your eyes, ashamed to meet his. It's nothing, you say quickly. Just old pain. It doesn't matter anymore. He waits a moment before speaking again. If it didn't matter, it wouldn't still hurt. His voice is steady but tender, each word pulling down the walls you've built. You try to swallow the lump in your throat, but the truth presses too heavy. I thought time would heal it, you admit, but it still feels raw, like it never really closed. Jesus holds out his hand, palm facing upward. The light from the fire flickers across it, revealing the mark, the scar at its center. It glows faintly, not with pain, but with peace. Do you see this? He asks. You nod, your gaze fixed on it. This scar doesn't hurt anymore, he says softly. It once did. It once bled. But now, it only tells the story of love. That's what healing truly means. Not erasing the wound, but letting love rewrite its meaning. He moves closer, his eyes meeting yours. Every scar you carry, he continues, is a sentence in the story of your survival. You call them shame, but I call them testimony. You look down at your hands, tracing invisible lines only you can feel. Sometimes I hate them, you whisper. The memories, the mistakes, the things I wish I could forget. They remind me of how weak I was. He shakes his head slowly. No, little one. They remind you of how far you've come. Scars are not proof of weakness. They are proof that the wound didn't win. You let his words wash over you. The fire crackles softly, as if agreeing. When I appeared to my friends after the cross, he says, I didn't hide my scars. I showed them. Thomas doubted, remember? He needed to see, to touch, to believe that love had really conquered death. And so I let him place his hand where the nails had been. I didn't hide what hurt me. I revealed it, so he could see that pain can be transformed. He leans back, gazing into the flames. Pain that's hidden becomes poison. Pain that's offered becomes purpose. That's why I never erase scars, because they remind you that resurrection isn't about pretending the cross never happened. It's about knowing love was stronger. You feel tears begin to rise, but this time, they're not from sorrow, they're from relief, the kind that comes when truth finally replaces fear. So my scars, you begin, your voice trembling, they can still be beautiful. They already are, Jesus says, smiling, because they show where the darkness tried to end your story, and failed. You take a deep breath, the fire's warmth seeping into your chest. But what if people see them and think less of me? Then they have not learned what love Looks like, he answers simply. The Father does not look away from scars. He sees them as doors through which grace entered. He picks up a small ember from the fire, letting it rest in his palm. It glows without burning him, its light steady. Your scars, he says, are like this ember. They carry the memory of fire, but they no longer consume. They remind you that even what burned once can give light. You stare at the ember, mesmerized by its glow. So I don't have to hide anymore, you say quietly. No, he whispers. You were never meant to hide. You were meant to heal, and healing begins when you stop calling yourself broken. The night deepens, the stars above clear and bright. You feel lighter, as if something has lifted from your chest. The burden of pretending you were fine when you were really still bleeding inside. Jesus looks at you, his expression tender. The world tells you to cover your pain, he says, but I ask you to bring it to me. For every mark on your soul, I have one on mine. You are not alone in your story. He reaches out and touches your hand gently. The contact sends a warmth through you, not from the fire, but from something deeper. Each scar has a lesson, he says. Each one is a bridge between suffering and grace. Don't despise them. Let them teach you. You look into his eyes, and for a moment, you see not only the man before you, but the sacrifice behind him. The weight of every hurt redeemed by love. It's hard, you admit softly, to see pain as holy. I know, he says, but holiness doesn't mean untouched. It means transformed. You let those words sink into you, deeper than any wound ever could. The silence stretches, filled not with emptiness, but with healing. The fire flickers, the breeze sighs, and for the first time, your scars don't feel like chains. They feel like stories worth telling. Jesus stands slowly, gazing into the horizon. Keep your heart open, he says, because healing doesn't come all at once. It comes like dawn, softly, faithfully, every morning a little brighter than the last. You look at your hands again, and somehow they look different. Not marred, but marked by grace. The night hums quietly, the fire burning low. You feel peace, real peace, settling where pain once lived. And in that stillness, something inside you begins to heal. The embers glow low, soft and steady, their light breathing in rhythm with the quiet night. You sit close to the warmth, your palms open toward it, watching as the fire shrinks into faint red coals. Jesus sits beside you, his gaze resting on the flames, as though he sees more than what's in front of him, like he's watching time itself unfold. You feel it, don't you? He says quietly. That pull between peace and impatience, between wanting to be whole and wondering why it's taking so long. You nod slowly. It feels like I'm waiting for something that never fully comes. Some days I think I've healed, and then out of nowhere, the pain returns. He turns toward you, his eyes full of understanding. Because healing isn't a moment, he says softly. It's a journey. It doesn't happen in one breath or one prayer. It unfolds little by little, in the rhythm of grace. You stare at the dying fire, the flicker of orange fading to dull red. Then why does it hurt even after I've let go? Jesus leans closer, resting his elbows on his knees, because letting go and being healed are not the same. Letting go removes the weight, but healing restores what was broken, and restoration takes time. His words sink deep, heavy but kind. You glance at him, your heart trembling with the question you've carried for years. So you're not disappointed in me? For still struggling? He smiles gently. Disappointed? He repeats. No, I'm proud. You're still here, still breathing, still trying. Every time you choose to stay, even in the waiting, heaven calls that faith. The wind shifts, brushing through your hair, carrying with it the faint sound of waves returning to the shore below. Jesus picks up a small branch and gently stirs the embers. Do you see how the fire doesn't die, even when it looks like it should? He asks. It only rests. It gathers strength in the quiet, waiting for the right breath to come alive again. You watch the embers pulse faintly, glowing brighter each time he moves the stick. So even when I can't see progress, you whisper, it doesn't mean it's not happening. Exactly, he says. The same spirit that breathed life into your lungs still moves beneath the surface. Healing grows in places no one sees, in the slow rebuilding of trust, in the gentle forgiveness of yourself, in the courage to keep showing up. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the quiet surround you. But sometimes it feels like I take one step forward and 2 steps back, you say. Like I ruin my own progress. He shakes his head. You don't ruin what grace is building. You only delay it when you stop believing it's happening. The words find their way deep into you, disarming the voice that's long whispered, you're too slow, too weak, too broken. You realize how often you've measured healing like success. Something to earn, something to finish. Jesus' tone softens even more. When I healed the blind man, he says, it didn't happen all at once. The first time, he saw shapes and shadows. I touched him again, and then he saw clearly. That's how it works for you too. Some healings need more than a moment. They need time, touch, and trust. He pauses, his voice lowering to almost a whisper. Even I took time to rise. You look at him, startled. What do you mean? 3 days, he says simply. Between the cross and the empty tomb, silence, waiting, stillness. The world thought nothing was happening, but in that time, everything was being renewed. You feel something stir inside you, that same stillness that now feels less like absence and more like holy preparation. So my waiting isn't wasted, you ask. Never, he says firmly. Every tear, every prayer whispered into silence, every night you choose to believe even when you don't feel it, none of it is wasted. The Father gathers them all. You're being rebuilt in ways you can't yet see. You let out a shaky breath, your eyes stinging. It's hard not to rush it, you admit. I just want to be okay. He nods, looking into the dimming fire. I know, but peace grows slowly because it's meant to last. Quick fixes fade, slow healing roots deep. The fire gives one last bright flicker before settling again, smaller but still alive. The faint crackle fills the silence between you. Jesus reaches out and places his hand over yours. You're not behind, he says. You're becoming. The seed doesn't rush to bloom, the night doesn't hurry the dawn. You are right where you need to be. The words settle into the quiet like warmth spreading through your bones. You breathe deeply, realizing that maybe waiting isn't punishment, it's protection. Maybe the space between hurt and healing is where strength is born. Jesus looks at you with a gentle smile. Every scar you carry is still healing beneath the skin. Don't pick at what I'm still mending. Trust the process. Trust the pace. You nod, feeling tears fall freely, but they don't sting this time. They feel cleansing, soft, honest. Then I'll wait, you whisper, even if it takes a lifetime. He squeezes your hand. It won't take forever, he says, but even if it did, I'd wait with you. You look into the fire again, now nothing more than glowing embers. They pulse faintly, steady and alive, mirroring the slow, patient rhythm of your heart. The night stretches deeper around you, the air cool but calm. You lean back slightly, resting your head, your eyes heavy but peaceful. The healing hasn't finished, but for the first time, that feels okay. You finally understand that time itself can be holy, too. The fire hums low, quiet and faithful, as the stars gather above, watching over you both in silence. The fire has nearly gone out. Only a few glowing coals remain, flickering weakly against the dark. The air is colder now, heavy with silence. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders and look toward the horizon, but there's no hint of light yet. Only shadow, stretching endlessly in every direction. Jesus sits beside you, his presence steady even in the stillness. The quiet feels deeper now, almost sacred. You speak softly, barely above a whisper. It's so dark. Jesus looks toward the sky. Yes, he says. The night runs deep before the dawn comes. But do you know something about darkness? You glance at him, waiting. It's not a punishment, he says gently. It's preparation. The words settle between you heavy and calm. You stare at the dim coals, trying to make sense of them. Preparation for what, you ask? For For light, he answers simply. For growth, for strength, for faith. The soil must stay hidden before it blooms. The seed has to rest beneath the surface before it can rise. You exhale slowly, watching your breath mist in the cold air. But it feels endless, you admit, like I've been waiting forever for something to change. He nods. That's what the night feels like when you're standing in the middle of it. But even now, it's doing something holy. The darkness isn't empty, it's where roots grow. His words fall like drops of water in dry earth. You look up at the sky, the stars glimmer faintly, scattered like tiny candles across an infinite black canvas. It's strange, you say quietly. The stars are so far away, but they're still shining. Jesus follows your gaze. They're reminders, he says. Promises that never fade, even when you can't see them through the clouds. The night doesn't destroy the stars, it only reveals them. You let your eyes linger on the stars. Some seem brighter than others, some faint, but all constant. So even when I can't see your plan, you whisper, you're still there? He smiles, the kind of smile that holds eternity in it. Always, he says. Even when you feel abandoned, you're not. You're being refined. The long night teaches you how to see what daylight hides. The quiet faith, the hidden strength, the light within you that never goes out. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing in the stillness. It doesn't feel as cold anymore. The darkness isn't so heavy now that it has meaning. I used to think when things went quiet, you'd stop listening, you confess. I never stop listening, he says softly. Sometimes silence is my answer, not because I'm far, but because I'm near enough to trust you with stillness. The stars above seem to shimmer brighter, as though responding to his words. Jesus leans back slightly, hands resting on his knees. There's a rhythm in heaven, he says. Light and dark, growth and rest, joy and sorrow. Even the longest night is part of that rhythm. The world sleeps, and I watch over it. I never leave when the light fades. You open your hands toward the dying fire, palms catching the faint warmth still lingering there. So this isn't wasted, you say. No, he replies. Even in the night, your soul is healing. Even in silence, you're being shaped. Trust the process. You are learning what light truly is. Not the absence of dark, but the power that overcomes it. You look up again, and the sky seems wider than before. The stars pulse faintly, alive, breathing in the quiet rhythm of eternity. I've always been afraid of the dark, you admit. It feels lonely. Jesus' voice softens even more. You're never alone in the dark, he says. The stars are proof of that. They shine because my Father commanded them to. And if he cares enough to light the heavens, how much more does he care to light your heart? The wind moves gently through the valley, stirring the ashes, carrying with it the faint scent of salt and morning. Jesus' eyes lift toward the horizon. The night tests patience, he says, but dawn always answers. You follow his gaze. Far in the distance, the faintest glow begins to rise, so subtle it could be missed if you weren't looking for it. But it's there, a thread of pale light stretching along the horizon, soft and tender. See, he whispers, the promise kept. You stare at it, the ache in your chest easing with every passing second. The first light of dawn feels fragile, but real, a quiet defiance against the dark. It's beautiful, you breathe. He nods. Because it's honest. Light born out of night always shines differently. Warmer, deeper, full of grace. You had to walk through the long night to see it. You let his words fill the silence, calm as the glow grows stronger, turning the sky from black to blue, from blue to gold. The coals beside you flicker once more, catching a glint of the new morning light. Jesus looks at you, the sunrise reflected in his eyes. Remember this, he says. The next time you walk through darkness, it's not punishment. It's preparation for something greater than you can imagine. You nod, feeling tears press at the corners of your eyes. It doesn't seem so scary now, you say. That's because you've seen what waits at the end of it, he replies. Every night has its dawn, every silence has its song. Every soul that endures the dark will see the light. The first rays of sun break fully over the horizon, washing the valley in gold. The fire sparks to life again, as though stirred by the light itself. You breathe in deeply, the air cool and new. The night has passed, and in its quiet you learned what faith truly means. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to trust the stars until morning comes. The first light spills gently across the valley, brushing over stone and sand, touching everything that survived the night. The air smells new, dew and smoke and something clean, something alive. You sit beside the rekindled fire, its flame small but golden, steady as a heartbeat. Jesus stands near the shore, his face turned toward the sunrise. The sea glows like molten glass beneath the new day's light. He turns to you and smiles. Do you hear it? You listen. The hush of waves, the faint call of waking birds, the whisper of wind through grass. The world is singing softly, though no words are spoken. Jesus nods as if answering your thoughts. That's morning mercy, he says. Every sound, every breath, every flicker of warmth, all of it is grace renewed. You watch the sun climb higher, slow and certain. It feels like the world is beginning again, you whisper. He kneels beside the fire, stirring it gently with his hand. It is, he says. Every morning is a resurrection in miniature, another chance for joy to rise from sorrow, for light to find its way through shadow. The flames catch, glowing brighter. Jesus looks at you, his expression both tender and full of quiet strength. David once sang, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." He knew that sorrow and hope share the same sky, one setting as the other rises. You let his words rest in you, soft as the light itself. The warmth of the fire touches your hands. The chill of night fades slowly, replaced by something calm and bright. Jesus continues, his voice almost like prayer. Morning mercy doesn't arrive in thunder. It arrives in whispers, in the breath you didn't know you'd still have, in the peace you thought would never return. It arrives in the small things that prove heaven hasn't forgotten your name. He looks toward the sea, and his tone takes on a rhythm, gentle, psalmic, like each line is meant to be breathed rather than spoken. Blessed is the one who wakes and finds the sun still rises. Blessed is the weary heart that still beats after the storm. Blessed is the soul that remembers. Mercy is not a reward, it's a gift renewed each dawn. You close your eyes, letting the cadence wash over you. The words feel like prayer, like sunlight poured into language. Morning mercy, he says softly, is the proof that yesterday's grace wasn't the last. You look up, eyes tracing the horizon. The sea reflects the sky in shades of gold and blue, the surface rippling with light. It's beautiful, you say. Jesus smiles. It's honest. Morning doesn't erase the night. It redeems it. The light that touches you now was shaped by the dark that came before. That's how mercy works. It doesn't deny pain. It transforms it. You breathe in deeply, the air warm in your chest. So mercy isn't just forgiveness, you ask. He shakes his head. No. Mercy is love that remembers you while you're still waking. It's patience that waits through your silence. It's the Father whispering, "Try again, child. The day is new." The wind shifts gently, and the waves lap against the shore in rhythm. The world seems to echo his every word, as if creation itself is nodding in agreement. Jesus rises, spreading his arms slightly as though welcoming the sun. Every dawn preaches the same truth, he says, that no matter how long the night, my Father's compassion resets with the morning. Not recycled, renewed. Each sunrise is a promise. You are still loved. You are still chosen. You are still mine. His voice softens again, almost a whisper. The angels sing when you open your eyes, not because you are perfect, but because you are alive. That alone is reason enough for heaven to rejoice. You feel tears form, but this time they come with a smile. So even this, just breathing, just waking, is worship. He nods. Yes, gratitude turns breath into prayer. You close your eyes again, letting the morning wash over you, and for a while, neither of you speak. The silence feels full, filled with warmth, light, and the hum of creation awakening to grace. When Jesus finally speaks again, his words sound like verses written into the air. Thank the morning for its light. Thank the fire for its warmth. Thank the stillness for its peace. Thank the breath that carries your name. You whisper the words after him, slowly, reverently. They settle deep, becoming part of you. He glances back toward the sea. Gratitude is the posture of a healed heart, he says. The more you notice mercy, the more it multiplies. The smallest thanks opens the largest doors. You look around, at the light brushing across the waves, the glow of the fire, the soft wind moving through the grass. And suddenly, everything feels sacred, even the ordinary, especially the ordinary. Jesus turns to you once more, his eyes bright with the reflection of the morning sun. Remember, he says, you are standing in the middle of mercy right now. Every heartbeat, every sunrise, every quiet breath, all of it is grace given again and again. The sea sparkles behind him like endless glass. The sky stretches high and endless, the kind of blue that feels like freedom. You sit still, feeling the warmth spread through your chest until peace fills every corner of you. Jesus smiles softly, watching as the sunlight dances across your face. Now, he says, let's talk about what happens when you learn to give thanks, not just for what's been healed, but for what's still becoming. The morning deepens, light spilling freely across the earth, and the fire hums gently beside you, alive with promise. The warmth of morning still lingers in the air, golden and soft. The fire burns gently beside you, its light mingling with the sun's rays as the sea glimmers in front of you. You breathe deeply, feeling peace begin to settle like dew across your spirit. Jesus stands at the water's edge, his robe stirring slightly in the breeze. He looks out toward the horizon as though watching something unseen unfold. After a long silence, he turns toward you. You see how the world wakes with thankfulness, he says. Every wave that rises, every bird that sings, every leaf that opens, it all gives thanks just by being. You follow his gaze to the sea, noticing the way the sunlight dances over the waves. It's beautiful, you whisper. He smiles. Gratitude always is. It's the language creation never forgets. You watch him crouch beside the fire, adding a few small sticks. The flame leaps higher, catching easily. Gratitude, he continues, isn't just saying thank you. It's seeing the sacred in the small. It's choosing to believe that what you have is enough for me to work with. You tilt your head, even when it feels like I don't have much to offer. Especially then, he says, eyes bright. Do you remember the boy who brought me 5 loaves and 2 fish? You nod. He didn't have much, but you fed everyone. Jesus' smile widens. Yes, thousands sat hungry before him, and all he had was scraps. But he offered what little he had instead of hiding it. He didn't say, this isn't enough. He said, here, take it. And when he placed his small gift into my hands, it became more than enough. He pauses, his voice low and steady. Gratitude begins with the same kind of trust. It doesn't wait until you have plenty. It begins with what's already in your hands. You look down at your own hands, palms open toward the rising sun. So even the little things matter? You ask softly. Every breath, he answers. Every heartbeat, every smile, every act of kindness. Every time you choose to see good when the world only shows you pain. Gratitude transforms what's ordinary into something holy. He picks up a small piece of bread from beside the fire, a leftover from breakfast, and breaks it gently in his hands. When I gave thanks for these loaves, he says, I wasn't thanking the Father because there was enough food. I was thanking him because he was enough. You feel the truth of that settled deep in your chest. You didn't focus on what was missing, you say. You blessed what was already there. Yes, Jesus replies. That's what gratitude does. It multiplies joy before the miracle arrives. The heart that gives thanks in scarcity will recognize abundance when it comes. He hands you a piece of the bread, still warm. Take and eat, he says softly. Let it remind you that Thanksgiving isn't about what's on the table. It's about who sits beside you. You take a bite, the simple flavor filling your mouth. The bread tastes like comfort, like peace. So gratitude is a kind of worship, you say quietly. He nods. It's the purest form of it. When you thank my Father, not for what you want, but for what is, your heart begins to see differently. Gratitude reshapes how you look at the world. It teaches your soul to notice mercy instead of lack. You look around, the waves, the morning light, the gentle hum of creation, and realize how full everything feels. You're not thinking about what's missing anymore. You're aware of what's present. Jesus looks at you, his expression soft but filled with joy. Do you know what gratitude really says? He asks. You shake your head. It says, I trust you, he answers. It's the prayer that keeps the heart alive. Fear says, what if I lose it? Gratitude says, even if I do, you'll still be enough. The simplicity of his words cuts deeper than anything else could. You look down, blinking away tears you didn't realize had gathered. I used to think gratitude meant ignoring pain, you admit, pretending everything was fine. He shakes his head. No, gratitude doesn't deny pain, it redeems it. When you give thanks in the middle of the ache, you invite me into it. And once I enter, even pain becomes fertile ground for grace. You stare into the fire, watching its reflection shimmer on the waves. I guess I never realized gratitude could change so much. He smiles. It changes everything. Gratitude is faith in motion. It keeps you from shrinking under worry and reminds you that my Father is still working, even when you can't see how. He stands again, looking out over the horizon. When you live in gratitude, he says, you walk lighter. You stop clutching at what might go wrong and start opening your hands to what's already right. You follow his gaze toward the sea. The tide rolls in softly, washing away footprints in the sand. It feels like an invitation to move forward. So gratitude doesn't just change how I feel, it changes how I walk, you say. Jesus' eyes meet yours. Yes, it teaches your feet to trust the ground beneath them. Gratitude turns wandering into worship. The sun has climbed higher now, bathing the shore in warmth. You stand slowly, stretching your arms toward the light. The fire hums quietly behind you, steady and bright, as if echoing your breath. Jesus smiles, seeing the calm in your face. You've learnt to see the gift in the morning, he says. Now let's see what happens when you start walking in it. You take a deep breath, the scent of salt and sunlight filling your lungs. The sea whispers softly, the horizon are and open. For the first time in a long while, you feel ready, steady, alive, whole enough to keep moving. And as you take your first step, you understand that gratitude isn't a moment, it's a way of walking through the world. The fire hums softly behind you, its warmth brushing your back as you stand. The morning air feels different now, no longer something to endure, but something to breathe in. You stretch your hands toward the horizon, palms open, feeling the sunlight rest against your skin. Jesus stands beside you, his eyes reflecting the sea's gold shimmer. The world feels wide again, alive and full of promise. He looks at you with a gentle smile. It's time, he says. You glance at him, uncertain. Time for what? To walk, he answers simply. You've rested long enough. Peace isn't meant to be kept by the fire, it's meant to be carried. You look down at your feet, toes buried in the cool sand. I'm not sure I remember how, you admit. It feels like I've been sitting still for years. He chuckles softly, the sound like sunlight through leaves. Then, we'll start slow, he says. You don't need to know where the road leads, only who walks beside you. The simplicity of his words settles in your chest like a steady heartbeat. He begins to walk forward, barefoot, the sand shifting beneath his steps. You follow, unsure at first, your legs stiff from stillness. Each step feels unfamiliar, like learning something again for the first time. The sea breeze brushes past your face, lifting strands of hair, filling your lungs with salt and light. Do you remember, Jesus says as you walk, when I called Peter to step out of the boat, you nod. He was afraid. Yes, Jesus says, but fear didn't disqualify him. I didn't ask him to be fearless. I asked him to move. Faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the courage to keep walking through it. You walk beside him in silence, letting the rhythm of his words guide your pace. The sand grows warmer as the sun climbs higher. You notice how steady his steps are, neither rushed nor hesitant. Every movement feels intentional, graceful, alive. He glances at you, the corners of his mouth lifting. The same peace that held you still by the fire, he says, can move with you now. You don't lose peace by moving forward, you bring it with you. You breathe in deeply, the truth of it filling you like air. The more you walk, the lighter you feel, not because the journey is easy, but because he is beside you. For a while, the two of you say nothing. The sound of the waves follows your steps, soft and constant, like a song written just for the morning. You realize something. The silence no longer feels heavy. It feels full. After a time, Jesus points ahead. Look, he says. In the distance, the path curves inland, where the sand gives way to grass. You can see figures faintly moving, others walking too. Some alone, some in pairs, some with weary steps, others almost running. Who are they, you ask? Pilgrims, he says, just like you, each one learning how to walk again. You watch them, noticing how some stumble but keep going, how others reach out to help those who lag behind. They look like they have been walking for a long time, you say quietly. They have, he answers. Some carry old pain, some walk with questions they don't yet understand. But every step they take toward love becomes a kind of worship. He looks at you, eyes warm with purpose. You've been sitting with me in stillness. Now every step you take becomes prayer in motion. You're not leaving the peace you found. You're extending it. You glance back toward the distant fire, its smoke rising faintly against the bright sky. So this isn't goodbye to what I've learned. He shakes his head. No, peace is not something you return to. It's something you carry. The fire still burns within you now. The words wrap around you like light. You take another step, then another, until the rhythm becomes natural again. The ground beneath your feet feels alive, each footprint a small act of trust. Jesus walks beside you, quiet but near. His presence feels like breath, like rhythm, like gravity itself. The world ahead is wide and uncharted, but you no longer fear it. You've seen what grace can do in stillness. Now you will learn what it can do in motion. After a while, he speaks again. When you walk, don't rush, he says. The path isn't a race, it's a relationship. Every person you meet, every step you take, will teach you something about my Father's heart. You nod, eyes following the horizon. The pilgrims ahead seem closer now, their laughter faint but real, carried on the wind. You realize you're smiling. It feels strange and wonderful. Jesus' tone softens. You'll walk with others soon, he says. Some will need encouragement, others will remind you of joy. You'll share what you've learned by the fire, not with sermons, but with kindness. The peace you carry will speak louder than words. You look at him, the sunlight catching in his eyes. I don't know what to say to them, you admit. He smiles. You don't need to say much. Just walk beside them. That's what I did. The simplicity of it makes you laugh. Quiet at first, then freer, like something opening in your chest. He laughs too, the sound blending with the waves and the wind. The grass brushes against your feet now as the sand fades away. Ahead, the pilgrims walk slowly, their figures clearer with each step. You can see their faces now, tired, hopeful, alive. You're one of them. Jesus stops and looks at you. Every sunrise brings another step, he says. Don't fear the road. I walk in front of you, beside you, and within you. You nod, the peace within you steady as the morning. Then I'll keep walking, you whisper. Good, he says with a smile, because the journey's just beginning. The breeze lifts again, carrying with it the laughter of those ahead. The light glows warmer, the air rich with promise. You take your first step toward them, the fire's warmth still alive in your heart, the peace of Jesus guiding every move. And for the first time, your steps feel like home. The path winds through rolling fields now. The scent of grass and sunlight are mixing in the air. The sea is far behind you, but the sound of waves still lingers faintly in your memory, the rhythm of peace that taught you to walk again. The road is quiet except for the crunch of your footsteps and the distant call of a bird. You're alone for the first time since the fire, and yet, strangely, you don't feel abandoned. The peace he left within you still hums like a steady flame. You walk for a long while until the sun sits high above, its warmth soft and kind. The world feels alive around you, wind brushing through trees, light scattering over stones, the faint murmur of a nearby brook. You stop for tizawatid, moment to rest under a tree, wiping the dust from your hands. That's when you hear footsteps behind you. You turn and see a man walking up the road. His clothes are simple, his pace unhurried. There's nothing striking about him, and yet something about his presence feels familiar, like a song you've heard before but can't quite place. "Mind if I walk with you?" he asks, voice calm and steady. You nod. Not at all. He smiles. Not a grand smile, just quiet and genuine, and falls into step beside you. For a while neither of you speak. The silence is comfortable, easy. After some time, the stranger glances at you. "You look like someone who's been walking a long road," he says. "What brings you this way?" You hesitate, unsure how to answer. "I guess I'm still learning how to move forward," you say finally. "It's been a long journey, one of letting go, learning to rest, learning to trust again." He nods slowly, eyes kind. "Those are heavy lessons," he says. "Not many take the time to learn them. Most rush from one thing to the next, afraid to be still long enough up to see what's inside." You glance at him, something about his tone pulling at your memory. "Have we met before?" you ask. He laughs quietly. "In a way," he says, "but maybe not as you remember." You frown slightly, unsure what he means, but his voice has a warmth that keeps you from feeling uneasy. The two of you keep walking. The road narrows and rises slightly, bordered by wildflowers bending gently in the wind. After a while, you find yourself talking, not out of obligation, but ease. You tell him about the fire by the sea, about the peace you found there, about the voice that told you rest was holy and healing takes time. You speak of walking again, of gratitude, of trying to live differently. The stranger listens without interruption, his expression patient and deeply attentive. When you finally stop, he smiles softly. "You've learned much," he says. "But tell me, what happens when the peace you found by the fire is tested in the noise of the world?" You blink, caught off guard by the question. "I suppose I hadn't thought about that," you admit. "It's easy to believe when everything is quiet. Harder when the world starts shouting again." He nods. "That's where faith grows strongest. In the ordinary days, among the noise. The road teaches you things the fire cannot. It asks you to remember peace when the silence fades." His words strike something deep in you. "How do I do that?" you ask. "How do I keep faith alive in the middle of everything?" He looks at you with a kind of knowing that feels infinite. "You look for me," he says simply, "not just in the holy moments, but in the hidden ones, in the patience of a friend, in the kindness of a stranger, in the quiet strength it takes to forgive. I am not only found in miracles, I walk in the ordinary too." You stare at him, something stirring in your chest. That same peace, that same warmth you felt by the fire. His words sound familiar, like something Jesus once said. The stranger continues, his tone gentle but firm. "Faith in daily life isn't about grand gestures. It's about noticing me when I pass by unnoticed. When you see someone smile at you with compassion, that's me. When you choose to love, even when it costs you something, that's me too. I walk every road with you, even when you don't recognize me, your steps slow. Wait, you say, your voice barely a whisper. Who are you?" He stops too, the sunlight haloing around him. His smile deepens, eyes reflecting something eternal. "You already know," he says quietly. Your breath catches the realization hitting you all at once. The same presence you felt by the fire, in the waves, in the whisper of the spirit. It's him. It's always been him. Before you can speak, he gestures toward the path ahead. "Keep walking," he says. "Others are waiting. You'll meet them soon. Tell them what you've seen, not with sermons, but with kindness. Let them know that I walk their roads too." You open your mouth to reply, but he's already stepping away, his form fading slowly into the golden light. The road ahead feels wider now, filled with warmth that wasn't there before. You keep walking, the dust soft beneath your feet. The air feels different, alive, sacred. You pass a group of travellers resting beneath an olive tree. They greet you with smiles, and you smile back, recognizing something holy in their eyes. As you walk past them, you realize something beautiful. The peace you found by the fire isn't confined to that place. It moves with you, through every step, through every stranger, through every act of kindness you give or receive. Faith, you realize, isn't just believing in him when you see him, it's recognizing him when you don't. And so, with your heart full and your steps light, you continue down the road, ready to live your faith not just in prayer, but in every moment that love disguises itself as ordinary life. The road winds into a small village, quiet and alive in its simplicity. The smell of bread drifts from an open window. The sound of children laughing echoes between walls of clay and stone. A woman sweeps her doorstep. An old man tends to his cart. Nothing miraculous seems to happen here. No thunder, no light from heaven. And yet, as you walk through, something in your heart stirs. Peace lingers in the air like perfume. Jesus walks beside you again, his expression calm, almost contemplative. He watches the people as they move, their quiet routines, their small gestures, their steady rhythm of life. After a moment, he speaks. "This is where my Father loves to dwell," he says softly. You glance at him, surprised. "Here, in this?" He nods. "Yes, right here, among the ordinary." You watch as the woman finishes sweeping, smiling faintly at a child who runs past her. "But it all seems so small," you say. "I thought holiness looked like mountains and miracles, something bigger." Jesus smiles, shaking his head gently. "You've been taught to look for me in the thunder," he says. "But I'm just as present in the quiet. The divine doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hums through the mundane." He stops beside a well, tracing his fingers along its stone rim. "When I washed my disciples' feet," he continues, "it wasn't to show my power. It was to show that love sanctifies the simplest things. Washing, serving, listening. The smallest acts become holy when done with love." You think about it for a moment. The sweeping woman, the baker shaping bread, the man mending his cart. Each movement is deliberate, full of care. "So you're saying they're worshipping right now?" you ask quietly. "Yes," he says, eyes bright. "Every motion that's offered with love becomes prayer. Every task done in kindness becomes an altar." You watch a young boy hand a piece of bread to an old man sitting by the road. The gesture is simple, quick, wordless, but something in it catches your breath. It's gentle, pure. "That boy," Jesus says softly, watching too, "has found me without knowing it." He looks at you again, his tone deepening. You see, the Father never hides from his children. It's the eyes of the world that grow blind. Holiness is not distant. It lives in the ordinary. The miracle is not that heaven touches earth. It's that it never stopped. You feel your chest tighten, the truth of it settling like warmth spreading through your ribs. "So all this time," you murmur, "I've been waiting for something extraordinary, but you've been in the small things all along." He nods, smiling faintly. "The small things build the kingdom more than you think. Every time you forgive someone, every time you show patience, every time you choose compassion, when anger feels easier. That's the work of heaven. That's where I live." You think of your own life, the dull, repetitive days, the quiet moments that felt like nothing. "Then I've walked past you 1,000 times, you say softly. "Maybe," he replies gently, "but I never walk past you." The words strike deep, wrapping around you like a promise. You look around the village again, the rhythm of life, the laughter, the labour, and for the first time it all looks different. Everything glows faintly with meaning. Jesus steps closer, picking up a piece of pottery left near the well. "Do you know what makes this sacred?" he asks. You shake your head. He holds it up so the sunlight catches its rough edges. "It was shaped by hands that cared, formed from earth, strengthened by fire, made to serve. That's holiness. Something ordinary becoming extraordinary through love." He places the candle, pottery back down, carefully, almost reverently. "When you work, when you serve, when you breathe, Do it as if you're shaping something holy, because you are. You sit at the edge of the well, thinking about your own hands, how many things they've done without thought, how often you've rushed through the small moments, believing they didn't matter. I never realized, you whisper. I thought I had to do something great for you to notice me. Jesus crouches down beside you, his voice soft but clear. Greatness is not measured by the size of what you do, he says. It's measured by the love within it. The Father doesn't see the task, he sees the heart. He pauses, letting the words breathe between you. Do you remember when I broke the bread and gave thanks? You nod. Even that, he says, was simple. Breaking, sharing, blessing. But that moment fed generations. Never underestimate what love can multiply. The breeze picks up again, carrying the smell of baking bread and fresh earth. You close your eyes, listening. The clatter of pots, the murmur of voices, the flutter of wings. It all feels alive, like a quiet symphony of worship disguised as daily life. Jesus stands and looks down the road, his eyes shining with that familiar blend of peace and purpose. You've learned to find me in silence, he says. Now you're learning to find me in movement. Soon, you'll learn to find me in others. In their laughter, their struggles, their needs. That's where your calling begins. You look up at him, the light haloing his silhouette. My calling, he nods. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs presence, love carried into the ordinary. You've rested, you've healed, you've seen. Now it's time to live what you've learned. You stand, the ground firm beneath your feet, the hum of life around you steady and sure. The village glows with purpose now, each sound and movement like a thread woven into something eternal. As you take a step forward, Jesus smiles. Wherever you go, he says, remember, heaven walks with you, even in the small things. The sun climbs higher, the day unfolding before you like a gift waiting to be unwrapped. You breathe deeply, and the world breathes with you. You leave the small village behind, walking along a dirt path lined with olive trees. The sun has begun to soften, painting everything in gold. The breeze is gentle, carrying the scent of the earth, warm and familiar. Every sound feels alive. The hum of insects, the distant laughter of children, the rustle of leaves above. And somewhere in all of it, you can still hear his voice, steady, calm, unhurried, lingering in your memory like the echo of peace itself. The road bends slightly, and you stop for a moment, resting in the shade of a tree. The world is quiet again. You close your eyes and breathe, letting the stillness seep into you. For the first time, you notice something stirring deep within your chest. Not fear, not restlessness, but a quiet longing. It feels like something calling, something personal, intimate, ancient. Then you hear it. A voice, soft and familiar. You open your eyes slowly, your heart skipping. The road ahead is empty, but the air feels thick with presence. Do you know how long I've waited for you to hear me? The voice says. It's his voice, the same tone that calms storms, that whispered comfort beside the fire. Only now, it feels closer, closer than breath. You turn slowly, and there he is, standing a few paces behind you. The light filters through the trees, touching his face with warmth. He's smiling, but not the gentle smile of teaching or parables. This one feels personal, like he's been waiting just for this moment. He steps forward. You've walked so far, he says softly. You've learnt to rest, to forgive, to see, to give thanks. But now it's time to remember something even deeper. You swallow hard, your voice barely a whisper. What's that? He looks at you, eyes full of tenderness. Who you are. You stand frozen, unsure what to say. I don't think I know anymore, you admit quietly. Jesus nods slowly. That's why I'm here. He moves closer, his steps silent, his presence overwhelming but gentle. Do you remember, he says, when Mary stood outside the tomb, weeping because she thought I was gone? You nod faintly. She didn't recognize you. No, he says, not until I spoke her name. You feel the weight of his words settle over you, thick and holy. When I said Onkas Mary, he continues, the sound of her name unlocked her heart. She saw me because she finally remembered who she was. Seen, known, loved. His eyes meet yours. And you, he says softly, have been walking through your own garden of silence, thinking I was far away. But I've been here, waiting to call you too. The air stills. The world seems to hold its breath. Then he says it. Your name. The sound rolls through you. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep, sacred, familiar. It vibrates in your chest like a forgotten melody suddenly remembered. It's not just the name others call you. It's how he says it that breaks you open. There's no judgment in his voice, no distance, no disappointment. Just love. Infinite, unwavering love. Tears rise before you can stop them. Your knees weaken. You whisper, you know me. He steps closer until he's only an arm's reach away. I always have, he says. Even when you didn't know yourself. Even when you hid behind shame, behind fear, behind what the world told you to be. I saw you. Not as you think you are, but as you truly are. Mine. You tremble under the weight of it. Every false name the world ever gave you. Unworthy, too much, not enough. Melts away in the sound of his voice. You were never unseen, he continues. Even in your loneliest nights, when you thought no one noticed your tears, heaven did. The Father numbered each one. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are chosen. You cover your face with your hands, overwhelmed. But I've failed you so many times, you whisper. I've doubted. I've fallen. I've run. He reaches out and gently pulls your hands away. His touch is warm, steady. And yet, he says, you're still here. Still listening, still walking. Failure never disqualifies love. It reveals where it's needed most. He looks at you, his expression soft but fierce, like sunlight that refuses to fade. Do you understand now? I didn't die for a crowd. I died knowing your name. I rose to call it back to life. You can't speak. The tears come freely now, but they don't feel heavy anymore. They feel cleansing, like baptism. Jesus smiles through your tears. Every moment you thought I was gone, he says. I was whispering your name through the wind, through the kindness of strangers, through the peace that found you when you least expected it. Every time your heart stirred and you didn't know why, that was me. You look into his eyes, the fire of love burning there, eternal and unrelenting. Then who am I? You ask softly, almost afraid to hear the answer. He steps closer, placing his hand over your heart. You, he says, are beloved. Not because of what you've done, but because of who I am in you. You bear my image. You carry my light. You belong to me. The words sink deep, rewriting something broken inside you. You feel it, the shift, the restoration, the remembering. You are not lost. You are known. He smiles. Now that you've heard your name, he says, you can finally begin to see what I've always seen. The breeze stirs again, carrying the faint scent of lilies. The trees sway gently, as if heaven itself nods in agreement. The ache in your chest softens into peace. For the first time, you no longer feel like you're searching for God. You realize he's been searching for you all along, and now, having been called by name, you know you were never unseen, you were never forgotten, you were never unloved. The echo of your name still lingers in the air, soft and holy, like a melody that refuses to fade. You stand there, heart trembling, every breath a reminder of what just happened. He called you, not as one among many, but as his own. The light around you seems different now, brighter, warmer, and yet even with that warmth, something inside you hesitates. Jesus watches you quietly, as if he can see the storm forming behind your eyes. He steps closer, close enough that you can feel the peace radiating from him. You're thinking again, he says gently. You lower your gaze. I don't mean to, you whisper. It's just, even after everything, part of me still wonders why you'd choose me, why you'd care so much. I don't deserve this. He tilts his head slightly, a faint smile crossing his lips. There it is, he says. That quiet voice that keeps trying to undo what I've spoken. You sigh, the words spilling out before you can stop them. I've made too many mistakes. I've doubted you, pushed you away, fallen back into the same fears over and over. How could I be worth saving after all that? Jesus kneels in front of you, his eyes level with yours, and for a long moment, he says nothing. Then, in a voice steady as the sea, he whispers, "Because I decided you were." You blink, caught off guard. You decided? Yes, he says simply. Before you failed, before you feared, before you even knew how to speak my name. I decided that you were worth it. You shake your head, tears already sting in your eyes. But why? Because love doesn't need a reason, he says. It only needs a choice. And I chose you, not because you earned it, not because you proved yourself, but because you are mine. He reaches out, gently taking your hand in his. Do you remember what I said on the cross? You nod, your voice small. It is finished. He squeezes your hand. Yes, finished. That means nothing more needs to be done for you to be loved. No amount of failure can undo it. No amount of doubt can silence it. You can't earn what's already been freely given. You swallow hard, your voice trembling. But I still feel like I don't deserve it. Jesus smiles, eyes glimmering with patience. Grace doesn't measure worth by deserving, he says. If it did, no one would stand. You are not loved because of what you've done. You're loved because of who you are to me. That love isn't rented, it's inherited. You look at him, your voice barely audible. Inherited, he nods. Yes, like breath in your lungs, like blood in your veins. It's part of your being. You were created in love, by love, for love. Nothing you've done can unmake that. The words break something open inside you, a quiet flood of release. You've spent so long trying to be enough, trying to earn what was already yours. Jesus continues softly, "Do you remember the thief beside me?" You nod, blinking away tears. "He couldn't give me anything," Jesus says. "No promises, no deeds, no second chances. All he had was faith enough to look my way. And that was enough for me to say, 'Today you will be with me in paradise.' That's what my love is. It meets you where you are, not where you think you should be." You wipe your face, the tears falling freely now. "So even with all my failures, all my fears," he finishes for you. "You are still worth saving." The words strike deep, not as comfort, but as truth. They don't erase your scars, they transform them. You feel something shift inside, a quiet acceptance replacing the endless striving. Jesus places a hand over your heart. "You are not a mistake," he says, firmly. "You are a miracle still unfolding. You were loved before the world began, and you will be loved long after it ends." You close your eyes, the warmth of his hand steady over your heartbeat. "Sometimes I forget," you whisper. He nods. "That's why I keep reminding you, because every time you forget your worth, the world loses a little light. You were made to shine, not to prove yourself, but to reveal the love that already lives within you." You breathe deeply, the air tasting like peace. The heaviness that's lived in your chest begins to lift. "So you're saying I don't have to keep earning this?" Jesus smiles softly. "No, you don't need to climb ladders to reach me. You only need to stay open. My love isn't something you work for, it's something you rest in." The wind moves through the trees, soft and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the world itself. You can almost feel creation, nodding in agreement, as if every leaf, every ray of light, is whispering the same truth. You are loved. You open your eyes again, and Jesus' gaze meets yours. There's no distance there anymore, no doubt, no unworthiness, only belonging. "Now that you know your worth," he says gently, "it's time to help others remember theirs." You nod slowly, the words settling into your spirit like seeds finding soil. "You mean, share this?" He smiles. "Yes, but not just with words, with kindness, with compassion, with presence. The world is full of people who've forgotten they're loved. You'll remind them, not by preaching, but by living like it's true." You take a deep breath, steady and sure. The weight that once kept you bowed now feels gone. For the first time you walk not to prove your worth, but because you finally know it. Jesus steps beside you once more, and together you begin walking again. The road stretches forward, wide and glowing with light, and ahead you see others travelling too. Faces waiting, hearts searching, souls longing for the same truth that just set you free. And you understand now, love was never meant to end with you. The road stretches on, bathed in the golden glow of late afternoon. The sun hovers low, painting long shadows across the path as you walk beside Jesus. The world feels quiet, not empty, but expectant, as if all creation is listening. You've learned so much on this journey: peace, patience, grace, worth. But as you walk now, you sense there's still one truth he hasn't yet spoken, something deeper than all the rest. Jesus slows his pace and turns towards you. His eyes are warm, but there's something weighty behind them, the kind of look that carries eternity in silence. You've learned how loved you are, he says. Now it's time to learn what to do with that love. You meet his gaze, curious. What do you mean? He smiles softly. Do you remember what I said to my friends before the cross? You nod. You told them not to be afraid. Yes, he says. But before that, I told them something else. Something simple, but harder than any command that came before. Love one another, as I have loved you. You take a slow breath, letting the words sink in. That sounds beautiful, you say quietly, but also impossible. Jesus chuckles lightly, though there's compassion in his tone. It feels impossible when you think of love as only emotion, he says. But my love isn't sentiment, it's service. You frown slightly, unsure. Service? Yes, he says, nodding. Love that kneels, love that listens, love that chooses humility when pride feels easier. When I washed my disciples' feet, I wasn't just cleaning dust. I was showing them how to love without condition, to serve without asking what's deserved. He crouches down, drawing a small circle in the dust with his finger. The world's kind of love says, I'll give if I get. But my love says, I'll give even if you don't. It doesn't measure, it doesn't keep score. It just gives, again and again, until the giving becomes joy. You watch him trace the lines in the earth. That kind of love sounds heavy, you admit, like it would break you. He looks up at you, smiling softly. It did, he says, and still, I'd do it again. You swallow hard, the truth of his words sinking deep. So that's what it means, to love like you love. Yes, he says, to let your heart break open for others, to forgive even when they don't apologize, to listen when no one listens back, to stay gentle when the world turns cruel. Real love isn't weak, it's the strongest thing there is. It carried a cross and called it victory. The air feels thicker now, charged with something sacred. You think about the people in your life, the ones who hurt you, the ones you walked away from, the ones you still ache for. But what if they don't love back? You whisper. He rises slowly, brushing the dust from his hands. Then love anyway, he says, because love isn't about being seen, it's about seeing others. When you love, you mirror heaven. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every time you choose compassion over resentment, you are bringing me into the world again. You feel your throat tighten. Even when it hurts? He nods. Especially when it hurts. Pain doesn't mean love failed. It means it was real. The words catch something raw in you. You look down, eyes stinging. There's someone I loved, you say softly. And they're gone. I tried to love them like you would, but they still left. And I still miss them. Jesus' expression softens. Love doesn't disappear when someone does, he says. It lingers, like sunlight even after the sun has set. The people you've loved, the ones who've gone, the ones who've hurt you, their stories are written in your heart. And love, true love, never fades. It transforms. You look up at him, your voice trembling. So what do I do with the ache that's left? He steps closer, placing a hand on your shoulder. You let it teach you, he says. Loss doesn't mean love was wasted. It means it mattered. The ache you feel is proof that you were brave enough to care. Don't run from it. Let it make you gentler. The world needs that kind of tenderness. You nod slowly, fighting back tears. It's hard to love when it keeps breaking you, you admit. I know, he says, but that's why I asked you to love like I love, because my love also bleeds. It forgives, it endures, it hopes again and again, even when it's rejected. That's the only kind of love strong enough to heal the world. The sky begins to shift, streaks of pink and gold stretching toward the horizon. The light catches his face, illuminating every line, every scar, every bit of peace. Love isn't meant to be stored, he says softly. It's meant to flow, let it move through you, from heaven to your heart, and from your heart to others. That's how my kingdom grows. You take a deep breath, the air trembling with warmth. It feels like such a high calling, you whisper. He smiles faintly. It's the only one that matters. You look out at the path ahead, wide, glowing, endless. You know now that love won't always be easy. It will stretch you, humble you, undo you, and yet somehow it will also make you whole. Jesus' voice breaks the silence once more, gentle as the wind. You were loved into being. Now go and be love for others. That's the truest way to follow me. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the words settle into your soul. When you open them again, the light has deepened, and the ache of old memories stirs faintly within you, the faces you've lost, the love that remains. And somehow you understand. Even grief is sacred when love is real. The sky deepens into soft amber as the sun begins at its slow descent. The warmth fades from the air, replaced by the cool breath of evening. You walk quietly beside Jesus, the silence between you heavy but not uncomfortable. The lessons of love still echo in your chest, but so does the ache. That hollow, familiar space where love once lived and left. Jesus glances at you, his steps measured, patient. You're quiet, he says softly. You nod, eyes on the ground. I was thinking about what you said, about love being service, sacrifice, giving without expecting. It's beautiful, but you hesitate, voice tightening. It hurts. Sometimes it hurts so much I wish I didn't love at all. He stops, turning to you with a look that feels like understanding wrapped in sorrow. Yes, he says gently. Love hurts. It has to. The same heart that can hold joy must also be wide enough to hold pain. You exhale, a small broken sound escaping. But why does it have to be this way? Why does something so good feel like it tears you apart? He looks out toward the horizon, the fading light outlining his profile. Because love is the only thing strong enough to expose the truth, he says. It shows you how deeply you can care, how deeply you can lose, and how deeply you can still live. You follow his gaze, watching as the last edge of the sun dips behind the hills. Sometimes it feels like I won't survive the loss, you admit, like the pieces left behind are too sharp to ever fit together again. Jesus steps closer, his eyes filled with the same compassion that healed the blind, the same tenderness that wept beside a tomb. Do you remember, he asks quietly, when I stood outside Lazarus's grave? You nod slowly. You cried. Yes, he says. Even though I knew I would raise him, I still wept. I wanted the world to know that love does not ignore pain. It enters it. It honors it. You look up at him, your throat tight. So you don't expect us to pretend it doesn't hurt. He shakes his head. No, grief is not weakness, it's love with nowhere to go. When you mourn, you prove that what you had mattered. I never asked you to bury your sorrow. I asked you to bring it to me. His words pierce gently, like light slipping through cracks. Sometimes you whisper, it feels like you're far away when I'm hurting. Jesus steps closer, his voice low, steady. I was never farther from you than when I hung on that cross. And even then, I was holding you. Every tear you've shed, I've felt it. Every lonely night, I was there, closer than your own heartbeat. The wind moves through the grass, soft and cool. You close your eyes, letting his words sink into the ache that has lived in you too long. But what about heartbreak? you ask quietly. When love ends, when people leave, when good things die, how do I carry that? He looks at you, his face full of gentle sadness. You carry it with reverence, reverence, he says. You let it teach you compassion. Heartbreak is not punishment, it's participation in my heart. When you love deeply, you touch eternity. When you lose deeply, you echo my own pain for the world. You stare at him, tears gathering at the corners of your eyes. It's just so hard to see the purpose when all that's left is emptiness. He nods slowly. I know. That's why resurrection always begins in a tomb. You blink, startled. What do you mean? He gestures toward the darkening horizon. The night doesn't erase the day. It makes way for it to return. The seed doesn't die in the soil. It becomes something greater. You see, the story of love doesn't end in loss. It bends, it breaks, it aches, but it also rises. His voice softens, almost a whisper now. Every tear is a promise I intend to redeem. Every goodbye you've ever spoken will one day be answered with reunion. Love never truly ends. It changes form, waiting for resurrection. You breathe in sharply, something warm flickering in your chest. Reunion, you repeat, almost afraid to believe it. Yes, he says. Nothing loved is ever lost in my Father's hands. The ones you miss, the pieces of your heart you think are gone, they're kept safe. One day you'll see that nothing was wasted. The pain you carry will bloom into joy so complete, you won't even remember the ache that birthed it. You feel tears spill over, but this time they don't burn. They fall softly, quietly, like rain watering dry soil. So love doesn't end at the grave, you whisper. He shakes his head. No, it walks through the grave and comes out shining. The first stars appear above you, faint but faithful. Jesus looks up at them, his expression peaceful. When you look at the night sky, he says, remember, those stars are light from long ago, still reaching you. That's what love is too. It keeps travelling, it keeps finding you. You follow his gaze, your breath catching at the beauty of it. Light surviving distance, love surviving time. It's hard to believe sometimes, you admit. That's why I walk with you, he says gently, so you'll never have to believe alone. He places a hand over your heart, and the warmth spreads through you, steady, healing, alive. You are allowed to grieve, he whispers. You are allowed to ache, but never forget. The story doesn't end in pain. Every wound that love leaves behind is a doorway I intend to fill with glory. The stars above shimmer brighter, and you feel something inside you ease. Not because the pain is gone, but because it's finally seen. You breathe in deeply, the air cool and full of promise, and as the night settles fully, you know, even the hurting kind of love is sacred, because it mirrors his, the kind that breaks, bleeds, and still chooses to rise again. The night sky stretches endlessly above you, filled with quiet constellations that shimmer like scattered promises. The air is still, cool against your skin, and for the first time in a long while, the ache in your chest feels lighter. You and Jesus walk along the same winding road, your footsteps soft on the dust, your hearts moving in rhythm with the stars. Jesus looks upward, his gaze tender, almost distant. Do you see those lights, he asks. You follow his eyes to the sky, the stars. Yes, he says, each one burns from millions of miles away, but you still see it. That's what hope is like. Light that travels from beyond your reach, but still finds its way to you. You watch the stars a moment longer. Sometimes hope feels too far, you admit quietly, like it's something made for other people, not me. Jesus smiles gently, his tone patient. That's because you keep trying to measure hope by sight. But hope isn't seen, it's trusted. It's the quiet certainty that even when the night feels endless, morning is already on its way. You breathe slowly, letting the stillness of the evening hold you. You make it sound so simple, you whisper. It is simple, he says. Not easy, but simple. He gestures toward the horizon, where faint lines of silver light rest against the darkness. Let me tell you a story, he says, eyes brightening with that familiar spark. There was once a gardener who planted a single seed in dry, cracked ground. Day after day, he watered it even though he saw nothing. People mocked him, saying, "There's nothing there." But the gardener smiled and said, "You just can't see the roots yet." And one morning, long after everyone forgot about the seed, a sprout broke through the soil, strong, green, alive. You smile softly. The gardener never gave up. No, Jesus says, because he believed in what he couldn't see. That's what my Father asks of you, to trust the roots even when the branches aren't visible. Hope isn't denial of pain. It's the decision to believe that pain isn't the end of the story. You walk quietly for a while, the parable lingering in your mind. The stars above seem to glow a little brighter, the night less heavy. Jesus continues, there was another man, a builder, who worked every day shaping stones. He built with care, though he didn't yet know what he was making. Others laughed and said, "Why build what you'll never see finished?" But he kept going because he trusted the voice that told him, each stone matters. When his work was done, he stepped back and realized the foundation he'd been building wasn't for a house on earth. It was for a city beyond sight. You glance at him, your brow furrowed. A city beyond sight. He nods slowly. The eternal home my Father is building, not out of stone, but out of souls. Every act of faith, every moment of kindness, every small offering of love, those are the bricks. You are helping build something greater than you could ever see here. The idea settles in your chest like warmth spreading through your veins. So nothing is wasted, you whisper. Nothing, Jesus says firmly. Every tear, every prayer, every act of love becomes part of the home I'm preparing for you. I promised long ago, I go to prepare a place for you, and when it's ready, I'll come and bring you home. You stop walking for a moment, the magnitude of his words pressing gently against your heart. Home, you repeat softly. I've always wondered what that feels like. He smiles, eyes kind. You've already felt glimpses of it. Every time you felt peace in chaos. Every time you were loved without reason. Every time you forgave instead of fought. That was home touching earth. The thought brings tears to your eyes, but they're not heavy ones. They're light, grateful, full of awe. I've spent so much of my life looking backward, you say. I didn't realize there was more ahead than behind. Jesus nods. There is always more ahead. The Father's story is one of continuation, not conclusion. Even death bends to it. Even endings become beginnings. He looks at you, his expression softening. Do you know what I told my friends before I left them? You shake your head. I said, in my Father's house are many rooms. That wasn't poetry, it was promise. Each heart that trusts me becomes part of that home, connected, eternal, alive. And one day, all that was broken will be restored, every separation healed, every lost love found again. You close your eyes, imagining it, a home built of light and laughter, of peace that never fades, of love that never ends. That sounds perfect, you whisper. He chuckles softly. It will be, but until then, hope is the thread that ties you to it. Hold on to it, even when you can't see the pattern it's weaving. The tapestry of eternity isn't finished yet, but it's already beautiful. You look up at the stars again, feeling something shift within you. The fear that once clung to the unknown now feels smaller, weaker. In its place is quiet confidence. Not because you see the future, but because you trust the hands that hold it. Jesus looks at you, pleased. The promise of tomorrow isn't just about heaven, he says. It's about learning to live today, knowing that heaven has already begun. You nod, your heart steady. So hope is remembering that there's more to come. Yes, he says softly, and trusting that I'll be there waiting when it does. You exhale, the night air cool against your face. The stars above seem closer now, not distant, but welcoming, like windows into something eternal. Jesus places a hand on your shoulder. Rest now, he says. Tomorrow is already written in light. You find a spot near the road and sit, your body tired but your spirit calm. The ground is cool beneath you, the sky vast and forgiving above. As your eyes grow heavy, the stars blur into soft halos of gold, and before sleep takes you, you hear his voice again. Quiet, steady, infinite. Tomorrow will come, and I will still be with you. The world is quiet when you wake. Morning has not yet broken, but the horizon hums with light waiting to be born. A soft breeze moves through the valley, brushing against the trees like fingers through gentle waters. The sound of a river reaches your ears, low, steady, endless. You rise slowly, drawn to it, and as you walk toward the sound, you see Jesus sitting by the riverbank. The water glimmers faintly under the starlight, smooth as glass, flowing without hurry or resistance. Jesus looks up at you and smiles. You found it, he says softly. You sit beside him, the earth cool beneath you. It feels alive, you whisper. He nods, gazing out over the water. It is. Rivers are never still, but they're never lost. They know where they're going even when you don't see the way. You watch the current twist and curve, its movement effortless. I wish I could be like that, you admit. Just flow. But I keep trying to control everything. I fight against the current. Jesus picks up a small pebble and drops it into the river. Ripples spread out in circles, fading softly as the water swallows them. That's because you keep thinking peace is the absence of movement, he says. But peace is not stillness, it's surrender. You frown slightly. Surrender? Yes, he says. To flow is to trust. The river doesn't resist its path, even when it bends through rock or shadow. It moves with purpose, not panic. You too are meant to live like that, letting my Father's timing carry you instead of fighting to make your own. You stare at the water, mesmerized by how it never seems to rush and yet never stops moving. But what if his timing feels slow, you ask quietly? What if I'm tired of waiting? Jesus chuckles softly, not mocking, but warm. Then you're in good company, he says. Even the river grows weary of its own twists, but it keeps flowing. You see, the Father doesn't rush because he never loses track of time. He moves at the speed of transformation. When you surrender to his flow, you find that the waiting itself becomes holy. You let his words rest in you, like pebbles settling in clear water. I've spent so long trying to swim upstream, you whisper, trying to make things happen, to fix what's broken, to force my life into shape. He turns to you, eyes shining with reflection from the river. That's why you're tired, he says. You're carrying what was never yours to control. Peace doesn't come from making everything right. It comes from knowing that even what's wrong is being carried somewhere good. You look down, watching a single leaf float past. It glides smoothly, spinning once before drifting beyond sight. So surrender doesn't mean giving up. He shakes his head. No, it means giving over, handing the weight to the one who knows how to carry it. The river doesn't lose strength by flowing, it gains it through release. The simplicity of it feels like revelation. I've always thought peace meant holding everything together, you say. Jesus smiles softly. No, peace is what happens when you finally stop trying. When you trust that the same God who makes rivers run and stars burn also guides your steps. Even when you can't see the path beneath the water, you're being carried. The river shimmers as the first edge of dawn begins to appear. Light spills gently across the surface, scattering like liquid fire. The reflection dances over Jesus' face, blending gold and silver together, until the elements seem inseparable, flame and water, light and motion. He looks at you, the glow reflected in his eyes, peace like a river, he says quietly. It's not about calm circumstances, it's about trust in the current, even when it rushes, even when it slows, even when it carries you through dark canyons or quiet fields. It never stops leading you home. You close your eyes and listen to the soft rush of the water, to the rhythm of your own breathing. Sometimes I think I'm afraid of surrender, you admit. Afraid that if I let go, I'll lose myself. He leans closer, voice like a breeze moving through reeds. You won't lose yourself, he says. You'll find me, and in finding me, you'll finally know who you are. The river never becomes less water by moving. It becomes more alive. You open your hands over the water, palms catching the faint light. The cool flow touches your skin, and something within you loosens. You feel it, the quiet release, the letting go. Jesus smiles, sensing it. That's it, he whispers. Let it go. The pain, the control, the fear, let it all drift into the current. My Father knows where it needs to go. You watch as the ripples expand from your hands, moving outward, joining the greater flow. The sight brings a peace so deep it feels sacred, not the peace of escape, but of belonging. The river doesn't question its source, he says. It trusts the mountain that feeds it and the sea that awaits it. You must do the same. Let your life move through the seasons. Trust that even when you cannot see the end, you are still flowing towards something infinite. You take a deep breath, feeling the air mix with the rhythm of the water. For the first time, surrender doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like freedom. Jesus gazes into the light spreading over the water, his voice soft but certain. The same fire that once warmed you now reflects in these waters, he says. What burned to refine you now shines to guide you. The flame and the flow are not enemies, they are one. You look into the river again, watching the reflection of the fire dance upon the surface, and you understand. Peace isn't found by escaping life, but by flowing with it, trusting that every current, every spark, every wave is part of his design. The water hums quietly, the firelight flickering on its surface like living gold. You exhale, feeling the stillness of surrender settle deep within you, and as the first full light of morning spills across the valley, you finally feel it. Peace like a river, endless and free. The morning light shimmers on the water, soft and gold, spreading across the valley like a blessing. You sit quietly beside the river, feeling its rhythm still moving beneath your skin. That calm, unforced peace you've only just begun to understand. The warmth of the sun settles on your shoulders, gentle and familiar. You think you could stay here forever, but then Jesus stands, his gaze turning toward the hills in the distance. Come, he says, softly. There's something I want to show you. You rise and follow him. The land changes as you walk, from the smooth flow of the river to the wild expanse of open fields. The air grows brighter, filled with the hum of life. Birds call from treetops, insects buzz over tall grass, and somewhere far off you hear the faint bleating of sheep. The sound stirs something in you. Recognition, though you can't yet name it. Jesus leads you up a small rise, and there, stretching before you, is a wide pasture. A flock grazes peacefully across the hills, scattered like clouds of white, against green. The sight feels ancient, holy in its simplicity. Jesus stops beside you, eyes resting on the flock. My Father's heart, he says, is like this field, wide, open, filled with care. Every soul has its place here. You watch the sheep move, calm and unhurried, and you feel an ache inside you. But what about the ones that wander, you ask quietly. He turns toward you, a knowing smile touching his lips. Ah, he says, then you already understand the story. You look at him, curious. What story? He sits on a nearby rock, the light catching in his hair. The one about the sheep who thought it could find its own way. His eyes glimmer, not in judgment, but in memory. Would you like to hear it from the sheep's side? You nod, sitting beside him, and so he begins. I once had a sheep, he says softly, small and curious, full of life. It loved the field, but the hills beyond called louder. It thought, surely there's more than this. Greener grass, freer skies. So one morning, while the others grazed, it slipped away. You can almost see it, a small white lamb, wandering past the safety of the fold, chasing the shimmer of something beyond. Jesus continues, his voice slow and deliberate, as if the story itself is sacred. At first, it was beautiful. The world beyond the fence looked endless. The sheep ran through tall grass, felt the wind, tasted freedom, but soon the ground grew rough. The grass turned dry, the shadows stretched longer. It kept walking, thinking it could find its way back when it was ready, but by nightfall it realized it was lost. The image forms clearly in your mind, the lamb trembling beneath a dark sky surrounded by thorns and strange sounds. The freedom it once chased now feels like chains. Jesus' eyes grow soft. It cried out, a sound so small it could barely be heard. It thought, no one will find me now, I've gone too far. But it didn't know that the shepherd had already noticed its absence. Before the sun had even set, he had left the 99 behind and started searching. You swallow hard, your chest tightening. Did he find it? He nods. He always does. He pauses, looking out over the field, as if he can still see that lost lamb in the distance. The shepherd walked through brambles, over stones, through the cold dark. He called the sheep's name again and again, not in anger, but in love. And when the sheep heard it, faint and far off, it stopped running. Its legs were tired, its heart broken. It tried to answer, but all it could do was tremble. His voice drops lower, almost a whisper now. Then, through the silence, came the sound again, the voice it had known since birth. I'm here, that's all the shepherd said, and that was enough. You close your eyes, picturing the moment. The shepherd kneeling beside the frightened sheep, his hands gentle as he lifts it onto his shoulders. The lamb too weak to walk, too ashamed to speak, yet loved beyond measure. When he carried it home, Jesus continues, he didn't scold it. He rejoiced. He called his friends and said, rejoice with me, for I have found the one that was lost. That is my Father's joy, to bring back the ones who thought they'd gone too far. Tears well in your eyes as the story ends. You look at him, your voice trembling. Was that me? He turns to you, smiling softly. It's all of you, he says. Every soul that wanders, every heart that doubts, every person who believes they've strayed too far to be seen. I never stop calling their name. He steps closer, placing a hand over your heart. Even when you run, even when you hide, even when you stop listening, my voice follows, not to condemn, but to call you home. You let out a shaky breath. I thought I had to find my way back on my own. He shakes his head. No, you were never meant to find me. I've been finding you. The words reach a part of you didn't know was still aching. All the years you carried guilt for wandering, all the times you thought you'd failed, they unravel in his presence like knots undone by light. Jesus looks out over the grazing flock, then back at you. You are part of my fold, he says. You belong to me, and nothing, no distance, no mistake, no shadow, will ever change that. The sheep in the distance lift their heads as the breeze moves through the grass. The sound of their soft bleating fills the air, blending with the murmur of the wind, a song of belonging, simple and true. You look at him, peace flooding your chest. So even when I wander, you whisper, you'll still come for me. He smiles, eyes glinting with morning light. Every time, he says, because love doesn't stop at lost. It leads home. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, hearing it now, the faint echo of his voice in every heartbeat, the shepherd's call that never fades, and for the first time, you truly believe you were never lost to him. You were only waiting to be carried home. The hills fade behind you as the path narrows again, leading back toward the place where the journey first began. The air is gentler now, the sunlight soft as honey, the breeze carrying the familiar scent of wood smoke. You recognize it immediately. The E, fire. It burns just ahead, glowing against the dimming sky, steady and alive, as if it never went out. Jesus walks beside you, his steps unhurried, his presence quiet but sure. You've walked far, he says softly. You've learned to rest, to forgive, to trust. You felt loss, carried love, and returned to peace. But there's one thing I want you to know above all else. You glance at him, heart stirring. What's that? He smiles, eyes reflecting the firelight that flickers in the distance. That you belong here. You stop walking. The words land heavier than expected, deeper than you're ready for. Here, you ask quietly. After everything. He nods, as if your doubt was already known. Yes, he says. After everything. Because belonging isn't about what you've done right. It's about who you are to me. You look toward the fire, its glow brightening as the sun dips lower. But I've wandered, you say softly. I've doubted you. I've run away more times than I can count. Jesus doesn't deny it. Instead, he walks closer to the flames, their light washing across his face. I know, he says simply, and still this place was never closed to you. The fire never stopped burning. You never stopped being mine. The words unravel something inside you, years of shame, the echo of voices that once told you weren't enough. You take a slow breath, feeling the warmth reach you even from a distance. I didn't think you'd want me back, you whisper. He turns toward you, his expression steady and full of peace. You were never gone far enough for me not to see you, he says. I watched every step, even the ones that led away. You belong not because you stayed perfect, but because you're loved, unconditionally, endlessly. You walk closer to the fire, the crackle and warmth embracing you like familiar arms. The place feels the same as before, the river nearby, the scent of pine and smoke, the glow that never fades. Only now, it feels fuller, brighter, like the entire journey led here on purpose. Jesus gestures toward the space beside him. Sit, he says. You've carried so much. Rest for a while. You do, lowering yourself to the ground. The warmth soaks into your skin, into your bones, into the tired places of your soul. You stare into the flames, watching how they move, wild, alive, unafraid of being seen. Jesus speaks again, his voice low and steady. Do you know why I use fire to call you back? You shake your head. Because fire does two things, he says. It refines and it welcomes. It burns away what isn't needed, and it warms what is. You were never meant to fear the flame. It doesn't destroy you. It purifies you. It reminds you that you are more than your mistakes, stronger than your failures, love beyond your fears. You nod slowly, eyes fixed on the dancing light. So this is where I was always meant to... He smiles. Yes, not because you have earned it, but because you were always invited. The words settle deep into you, grounding and freeing at once. You think back on the road, the river, the mountains, the firelight, the voices, the pain, and realize every part of the journey was leading here to this stillness, this belonging. You glance at him, voice barely above a whisper. What if I leave again? He meets your gaze, and in his eyes you see no disappointment, only love. Then I'll call again, he says, and I'll keep calling until you remember where home is. You don't lose belonging when you wander. You forget it. My voice exists to remind you. You feel tears rising, but they don't sting. They feel like release. It's hard to believe that after everything I've done, you still want me. He leans closer, voice like a whisper of wind through the flames. I didn't die for the worthy, he says. I died for the lost. I came for the ones who thought they had no place left. Every scar, every wound, every broken piece, they all fit perfectly here. Nothing disqualifies you from my love. You look into the fire, the light reflecting in your eyes. I never thought belonging could feel this simple, you say quietly. That's because the world taught you that you had to earn it, he says. But I've been teaching you something different. That love isn't a prize, it's a place. And this, he gestures around you, to the warmth, the stillness, the peace, is it. The flames shift, glowing brighter for a moment, and you see reflections dance over the surface of the nearby river. Water and fire mingling together, light upon light. The sight steals your breath. Jesus follows your gaze and smiles. That's what belonging looks like, he says. Opposites made whole, fire and water, grace and truth, spirit and flesh, you and me, together. You feel the wind rise, gentle at first, then stronger, moving through the trees, lifting embers into the air. They swirl above the river, floating like stars before fading into the dusk. You watch them disappear, but instead of sadness, you feel peace. Everything belongs, the flame, the river, even the fading light. Jesus stands, looking down at you. You've come full circle, he says, from running to resting, from lost to found. The fire you once feared is now your home. You look up at him, your voice trembling. So this is what grace feels like. He nods. Yes, grace is not the door you knock on. It's the home that never closed. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of smoke and pine, and the world feels quiet, sacred, complete. You sit there in silence, watching the last ember rise. and know without question that no matter where life takes you, how far you go, how often you fall, there will always be a place by this fire, always a voice calling you home, and in that moment, under the vast sky and the flicker of eternal light, you finally rest. Because you belong here. The wind softens and the fire burns low, its golden light folding gently into the night. The river hums beside it, slower now, as though even the current has learned to rest. You sit close to the fire, watching the embers pulse, slow, steady, alive. Jesus stands nearby, his robe brushed by the glow. The warmth paints his face in hues of orange and gold, and for a moment he seems to belong to both the flame and the stars. You know what's coming before he says a word. Something deep in your spirit recognizes the shift, that quiet ache before goodbye. He looks at you with that same familiar tenderness, the one that has followed you through every chapter of this journey. The night is almost over, he says softly. You've learned what you came to learn. Your throat tightens. Does that mean you're leaving? He smiles faintly, though his eyes carry something deeper, not sorrow, but completion. For now, he says, but not in the way you think. You stare into the fire, the words heavy in the air between you. How do I keep going if you're not here? He kneels beside the fire, picking up a small stick and stirring the coals. The embers flare briefly, glowing brighter before settling again. Do you remember, he asks, how I said peace is not found by holding on, but by trusting the flow? You nod, your voice small. Yes. This, he says, gesturing to the fire, is the same. The flame changes shape, but it doesn't disappear. My spirit is like that, always burning, always near, even when you can't see it. He looks at you, eyes catching the last of the light. When I leave, you'll think it's absence, but it's presence in another form. The fire must turn to ember so it can live inside you. The idea feels impossible, that this warmth, this voice, this nearness could exist within you. What if I forget what this feels like, you whisper. He reaches forward, gently brushing a bit of ash from your sleeve. You won't, he says, because you've carried me longer than you've known. Every time you forgive, every time you choose love over fear, every time you rest instead of run, that's me, alive in you. The fire cracks softly. The night hums around you, full but quiet. You want to say something, anything to make him stay, but the words won't come. The thought of silence without him feels too heavy. He senses it and smiles. You're afraid of the silence, he says gently. But silence isn't my absence. It's where my voice grows clear. When the noise fades, you'll remember how to listen. Not with your ears, but with your spirit. You swallow hard. Will it hurt? He tilts his head slightly, thinking. It might, he admits. Love always aches when it grows. But pain doesn't mean you've lost me. It means you're learning to carry me. Differently. He reaches into the fire with a small stick, pulling out a single glowing ember. It flickers softly in the cool air, fragile but bright. This, he says, holding it between you, is what I leave with you. Not the fire you can see, but the warmth that never fades. My spirit, alive in your breath, your hands, your heart. When you speak kindness, it will flare. When you choose hope, it will grow. When you rest in me, it will glow brighter. You stare at the ember, mesmerized by its quiet strength. It's so small, you whisper. He smiles. So was the seed that became the kingdom. He lowers the ember into your hands. It doesn't burn. It simply glows, weightless, pulsing with warmth that feels like a heartbeat. You hold it close, unable to speak. When the world feels cold, he says softly, remember this. I am not gone. I am within you. The fire you found here will guide you wherever you go. You are never truly alone. Tears spill down your cheeks before you can stop them. I don't want this to end, you say, voice trembling. He looks toward the horizon, where the faintest trace of dawn begins to bloom. It doesn't end, he says. It changes. What we began here, it continues in every sunrise, in every act of grace, in every quiet moment, when you still your heart long enough to feel me. You close your hands around the ember. Its warmth seeps into your palms, your chest, your breath. You can feel it spreading, not burning, but becoming part of you. Jesus stands, the dawnlight catching his silhouette. The sky behind him glows faintly pink, the promise of a new day unfolding. The fire was never meant to keep you here, he says. It was meant to teach you that I am everywhere. You rise slowly, your heart full of both ache and peace. Will I see you again? He smiles, the kind of smile that reaches eternity. You already do, he says. In every moment you love, in every person you serve, in every quiet act of faith, that's where I am. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of smoke and morning dew. The last flame of the fire flickers and fades, leaving only the glow of the ember in your hands. The world feels still, suspended between night and day, between what was and what's to come. You look toward where he stood, but he's gone. Yet the air still hums with his presence, the peace still alive, the warmth still real. You press your hand to your heart and feel the ember's gentle rhythm, the same steady pulse that once echoed in his voice. The sun crests the horizon, spilling gold over the water, and you realize that this isn't loss. It's continuation. He hasn't left. He's expanded. Into the light, into the wind, into you. The fire by the river has faded, but its warmth remains in every breath you take. You sit quietly, listening as the morning grows bright, the silence rich with his promise. I am with you, always, even to the end of the age. And for the first time the silence feels whole. It feels alive. It feels like peace. The morning grows brighter, though the air still holds that hush, the kind that feels more like reverence than emptiness. The fire is gone now, leaving only a circle of ash and a faint trail of smoke curling upward into the sky. You sit where Jesus once stood, the ember's warmth still pulsing gently inside your chest. Around you, the world is waking. Birds calling softly from the trees, the river whispering against the stones, the wind brushing through the grass. And yet there's something deeper beneath it all, a quiet so full, so alive, it feels like breath itself. You close your eyes and listen. At first, all you hear is the rhythm of the world, sound layered upon sound. But then, slowly, that deeper silence begins to emerge. It doesn't sound like nothing. It sounds like everything. The rustle of leaves, the distant hum of creation, the echo of his voice, not speaking, but being. For a moment, you wonder if this is what he meant when he said he would never leave. Not presence you can see, but peace you can feel. A voice, quiet and unmistakable, stirs within your spirit. It's him, not beside you, not before you, but within. Silence, he whispers, is not my absence. It's where my presence rests. Your breath catches, the sound barely leaving your lips. I thought silence meant you were gone, you whisper back. That you'd stop speaking. The voice responds, calm and tender. No, little one, I never stopped. The noise of the world just made it hard for you to hear. I speak through stillness, through the spaces between sound, through the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Silence isn't the end of conversation. It's where the deepest dialogue begins. You open your eyes slowly, looking out at the shimmering river. It flows as it always has, unbothered, steady. The reflection of the sky ripples softly across the water, gold and blue blending together like the meeting of heaven and earth. But I'm afraid of silence, you admit. When things get quiet, I start hearing my fears. That's because you've spent so long trying to fill what was meant to be sacred, his voice answers gently. The world taught you to see silence as emptiness, but my father made it as a sanctuary. Silence doesn't expose your fear, it reveals what's true beneath it. You take a slow breath, letting the quiet wash over you. It's uncomfortable at first, that space where nothing demands your attention. But then, as the seconds stretch, the discomfort turns to peace. There's something holy here, something infinite hiding in the stillness. Jesus' voice comes again, steady as a heartbeat. When I prayed, he says. I didn't fill every moment with words. I sat in the quiet and let the Father's love hold me. That's how I want you to pray. Not always asking, not always explaining, but simply being, resting, listening. That's where faith grows roots. You let the idea settle, the truth of it unfolding slowly. So silence isn't a punishment, he chuckles softly, the sound echoing through your spirit like sunlight through leaves. No, it's a gift, a sacred pause where you can finally stop striving. It's where you remember that you are not the maker of peace, only the receiver of it. You gaze at the horizon, the sky stretches wide, the kind of blue that makes you feel both small and infinite at once. I don't think I've ever really been still before, you whisper. That's all right, he says. Stillness is learned the same way trust is, slowly, through letting go. You close your eyes again and breathe. The air tastes like morning dew and pine. The sounds of the world begin to fade until all that's left is a hum. A pulse that feels like your own spirit, recognizing its source. Do you feel it? He asks. Yes, you whisper. It's quiet, but alive. That's me, he says. I'm not just in the miracles, or the thunder, or the fire. I'm in the hush that follows them. When the world quiets, when your thoughts settle, when your heart stops running, that's where I am. You sit with his words, letting them stretch through the stillness. It feels sacred, this silence. Not hollow, but full, as if every grain of air carries his presence. Jesus speaks again, his tone soft but sure. You've been taught to chase answers, but some truths can only be found in quiet. That's why I draw you into silence, not to leave you, but to show you what has always been within you. You nod, eyes still closed, tears forming quietly. I think I finally understand. You whisper. Silence isn't loneliness, it's closeness, without words. Exactly, he says. It's communion deeper than speech. When you rest in this stillness, you rest in me. When you sit without needing sound, you begin to hear eternity. The world around you feels lighter, as though every living thing has bowed into the same reverence. Even the river seems to slow, its voice softer now, mirroring your heartbeat. Jesus' voice comes one last time, quiet but unwavering. Whenever you feel lost, he says, come back here, not to the fire or the river, but to this silence. It's the doorway to my presence. In stillness I will meet you, in quiet I will guide you, in peace I will hold you. A single tear falls, but it's not from sadness, it's from awe. The silence feels sacred now, holy and alive. You can feel his spirit in it, steady, endless, sure. You breathe deeply, your heart slowing to the rhythm of creation itself. For the first time, you don't feel the need to speak, to ask, to understand. The silence is enough. You know now that when words fade, love remains. When sound ends, his presence begins. The ember within you glows softly, pulsing with the same peace that fills the air. The river flows, the wind sighs, the world holds its breath, not waiting for noise, but for stillness. And in that stillness, you finally hear it, the language of heaven, spoken without sound. It says, be still, and know that I am God. The air feels soft again, the kind of quiet that hums with completion. You sit by the ashes of the old fire, the river murmuring nearby, the world wrapped in gentle light. The silence that once frightened you now feels sacred, a calm that stretches wider than words. You breathe deeply, feeling the warmth within your chest where the ember still glows, steady and alive, and then you feel him again. Not walking towards you this time, not as a figure in the distance, but as presence itself, surrounding you like the air, the warmth, the light. His voice comes gently, wrapping around you like a song whispered in prayer. My beloved, he says, you've walked far and grown quiet. You've learned to see me not in distance, but in stillness. You've carried your burdens, your grief, your questions. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still believing. So now, let me bless you with rest. You close your eyes. The sound of his words settles over you like sunlight falling through branches. You can almost feel his hands above your head, not heavy, but light, the touch of peace. May your heart remember that it is already whole, he prays. Even when the world feels broken, even when your hands tremble, even when you doubt your own strength, may you remember that I have called you mine. You are not lost, you are loved. You are not behind, you are becoming. The wind stirs softly, weaving through the grass like a living breath. His words feel older than time, spoken not just for your ears, but for your soul. May the wounds you carry become windows for my light, he continues. May your sorrow soften into compassion, your pain into wisdom, your fear into faith. What once burned you will now warm you. What once scarred you will now shine through you. I make all things new, even you. Your chest rises and falls in rhythm with his voice. Every word feels like a balm, healing places in you that had forgotten what peace felt like. He pauses, as if letting the blessing sink deep before continuing. May your nights no longer feel endless. When darkness comes, may you remember that I rest there too. The same hand that holds the stars holds your heart. The same love that split the sea will part your storms. You open your eyes just enough to see the world shimmering with dawn. The light touches everything. The grass, the water, your skin, as if creation itself is listening. May your rest not be escape, he whispers, but restoration. Rest is not the absence of motion. It is the return to me. When you lie down, may peace surround you. When you rise, may love guide you. And when you walk, may grace follow behind you like the rivers. Song. Tears well quietly, not from pain, but from the overwhelming kindness in his tone. He continues, his words now almost like a melody. May you learn to breathe again, not in fear, but in faith. Every breath you take is prayer. Every heartbeat, a reminder that heaven lives within you. You are not waiting to arrive at peace. You already walk in it. The ember in your chest warms, pulsing gently in time with his voice. May your spirit remember that you were made for rest, he says. Not the rest of the weary, but the rest of the beloved, the peace of one who knows they are held. Let go of striving. You don't need to earn what I freely give. You don't need to chase what has already found you. The light deepens, stretching across the land. You feel the warmth of the rising sun kiss your face, and his voice grows softer, more intimate. My child, he says, you are safe now. Lay down your burdens, lay down your questions. The world will keep spinning, and still I will keep you. My spirit will walk beside you in laughter and in tears, in work and in wonder. And when your soul grows tired again, come back to this place. Not in distance, but in remembrance. The fire still burns within you. You bow your head, overwhelmed. His words feel like both an ending and a beginning. He pauses, then speaks the final line like a seal on eternity. May peace be the language of your days. May love be the shape of your life. And may you never forget that rest is not far away. It is who you are in me. The last word lingers like a heartbeat. The light swells around you, flooding the valley with warmth, and you realize this blessing isn't just being spoken to you. It's being written into you. Every breath, every thought, every heartbeat now hums with his prayer. And as you sit there beneath the morning scum Omoi, the ember inside glows brighter, leading you home. The day unfolds slowly, as if creation itself refuses to rush this moment. The fire crackles anew, not the one of wood and smoke, but the one within you, quiet and unending. You look around the valley, and for the first time you notice. Everything glows with the same light. The river's reflection, the grass bending in the wind, even the air shimmering in the sun. All of it burns with the same warmth that lives in your chest. You stand, feeling the peace of the blessing still resting over you like a mantle. Every sound, every rustle, every whisper feels like a reminder. You're not just standing near the fire anymore. You are the fire. You carry it wherever you go. Jesus appears once more at the edge of the light. He doesn't speak right away. He only watches you, his expression filled with something deeper than words. Pride, love, eternity. The silence between you is rich, holy. Finally, he steps closer. You see it now, he says softly. You nod. It was never about finding the fire, you whisper. It was about realizing it never left me. A smile spreads across his face, tender and bright. Yes, he says, you were never apart from me. Not by distance, not by doubt. Every time you wept, I was in the tear. Every time you laughed, I was in the sound. Every breath you've ever taken has carried my name. The truth settles into your spirit like sunlight soaking into soil. You can feel it, the fire, the river, the silence, the journey, all of it blending into one truth. You were home the whole time. He looks around the valley, then back at you. Everything you've seen, the water, the flame, the stillness, all of it lives inside you now. My Father doesn't dwell in temples or mountains. He dwells in hearts that have learned to rest. You step closer, your eyes reflecting the same golden light. It's beautiful, you say quietly. He nods. Because it's real. You've walked through fear, grief, and grace to remember what you always were, loved beyond measure. Home isn't a place you arrive at, it's a presence you awaken to. The words wrap around you like warmth returning after winter. You breathe deeply, tasting the air, and for the first time, it feels like breathing heaven itself. Jesus' eyes soften. You have learned the rhythm of my heart, he says. Peace that flows like rivers, love that burns without consuming, stillness that speaks louder than sound. You've come to know me not as far away, but as within. You look at him, tears glimmering in your eyes. Will you stay? You ask quietly. He steps closer until he stands right before you. I never left, he says, and I never will. My light is your light. My peace is your breath. My home is your heart. His voice fades almost into a whisper now, barely above the hum of the wind. When the nights grow long again, when life grows heavy, return here. Not to the fire or the hills, but to yourself. That's where I'll be, waiting, warming, whispering. You feel something stir, not sadness, but sacred stillness, the kind that comes when something eternal completes its circle. Jesus' form begins to shimmer, his light blending with the air, the sky, the sun. Rest now, he says softly. You are home. The last of his light folds into the horizon, but his warmth remains. You close your eyes, and in that moment, the fire flickers alive once more inside your chest, gentle, constant, divine. You sit again, just as you did at the beginning, by the river and the unseen fire. Only now you understand. It was never a place. It was always a presence, the fire of his love, the peace of his spirit, the home of his heart, all within you, all eternal. The wind moves softly through the valley, carrying the faintest whisper, a voice you'll never stop hearing. You're safe now, you are loved, you are home, and as the light of the world brightens, you close your eyes and rest. Not because the journey has ended, but because it has finally brought you where you've always belonged, here, by the fire, within the heart of God.